Well, none of them can hide from the truth, yeah. Children have to go back to the roots, yeah. None of them can hide from the truth, yeah. Children have to go back to the roots. I'm telling you now, the truth, the truth. Telling you, yeah, the truth, the truth. You have to go back to the roots, the roots. Go to the roots, to the roots. Yeah, man, you know, this is Benjamin out of the Smiling Coast, West Africa, Gambia, representing for the one and only Abu, the big man you don't know, the Soninke warrior, the man that brings the truth, Soninke warrior, the sign of enlightenment, the Soninke warrior, the righteous and the true African. Abu, reveal the truth to them, you know, no matter how them try to run from it, because none of them can hide from the truth, yeah. Yes, we have to dig back the roots, yeah. Fire!
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Afridamus Report. I'm your host, Afridamus, back again to bring you a fair and balanced analysis of, the culture of corruption in Africa. As you may know, if you've been here before, you would know that this channel is the most trusted, the fairest, and the most balanced channel you can find anywhere on the web. So yesterday I talked about some type of African part of a culture where some of it is toxic. But today, this one right here, this one is something that all of you that are watching need to truly, truly learn and understand why Africa is not moving, why Africa's growth is stunted, why the people in Africa are poverty-ridden, people are poor, despite the nations having mineral resources. That's not an accident, people. Because if you use logic, you have to understand human behavior, human activity is responsible for the environment. An environment doesn't develop itself. An environment on its own, all that destruction, all that dirt, whatever you're seeing, it didn't just happen like out of the blue. And also, it has nothing to do with outsiders. See, when people talk about corruption, you cannot outsource that to other people. And unfortunately, when it comes to topics like this, things that make sense, Africans generally tend to run away from it. They tend not to speak the truth on these things. Yesterday, you guys have seen if you're watching, you've seen the encounter that Mr. Two Niger brought here. And there's a reason why I allowed him to go on his tangent to derail the topic a little bit, because I'm giving him the opportunity to spew out everything that he wanted to spew. And from now on, if anyone that calls in here, stick with the topic, please. If we here at the Afridamus Report, if I'm not talking about white people, do not talk about white people, period. And all that childish talk to try to outsource the problem, try to blame other people, that would no longer be tolerated here on this channel. I believe in freedom of speech, but people shouldn't try to derail our topics that we here at the Afridamus Report are talking about. Because for some, it might be entertainment, but for others, it's educational. So it's edutainment. We can mix those two, but at the end of the day, only the truth shall set us all free. I want to welcome all of you in the house here: Omar, Spencer, Supergirl, Stoic One, and Jemenjai, Eye Movement, and all the people that I haven't mentioned. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm sure many of you, if you've grown up in Africa, or you've visited Africa, or you pay attention to whatever news is out there. When it comes to corruption, you know, Africa is no stranger to that. If you've lived there, it's all around you. It's not only the people at the top. You see it from lower level all the way to the big fishes. And let's not forget the people that eventually are put in power, the people that gain that power. They came from that community. You see, leaders are a reflection of their culture, their society, and what is acceptable. Because you see, when a child is growing up, you know, you're watching what is happening. You're seeing what is going on in that society. Because, by the way, the corruption is an accepted part of many African societies. Because you would see, you know, services, amenities, things that is supposed to be free, is paid for by the people of those nations. Try accessing it. It is not a quote unquote a Chinese white supremacist or whoever that many of these Africans like to talk about. They are not the one in charge trying to charge you for things that are supposed to be free. You go report crime to a police officer, like you see in the thumbnail. You can get robbed, stolen from. You would think the police are supposed to investigate it, right? They also would want their cut from you. That's criminality. The police, the reason why they are doing that, because they are not being paid well. That's no excuse though. But it takes a deeply embedded cultural culture of corruption for people to be able to accept such behavior, for people to be able to do that to one another. So this has absolutely nothing to do with Europeans, Chinese, Japanese, or people from space. Because if you look at it, the most corrupt people, the most corrupt leaders in Africa, in fact, I'm going to highlight some of them here because during my research, because as a matter of fact, I didn't want to base things on from just what I know, people. You have to do deep research to understand the level of corruption in that continent. And no, it's like from North Africa, East Africa, West Africa, Central Africa, South Africa. Every every coast you would find corruption there. Some are worse than others, but you would definitely find it. And in some of these places, it is so rampant. It is so rampant to a point, it's literally, you know, people that they put in place. In fact, it's pretty much corruption because for you to even be able to get them to do their job, you have to give them something under the table. I'll give you an example. For example, in Gambia, the place where I come from, when you go to the hospital, these hospitals are supposed, you know, like they're supposed to be free. Okay, they're supposed to be free. You have nurses that work there, doctors. The medications are supposed to be free. But now, you look around in town, whatever corner you go through, there is pharmacies all over. Pharmacies. There's shortage of medications in the hospital, but these pharmacies are stocked. And guess who own these pharmacies? Ordinary people that work in the hospital. So the nurses, the doctors, they are stealing the medication to start up their own pharmacies. And Gambia is no stranger to this. The poor, they have no choice but to accept this. But the poor, the poor cannot be, we can't just look at them as victims. Because you have to realize they raised these people to become, from the time they were children to where they are. How are they able to think this way? They learned it somewhere. So you cannot just blame the people that are in charge, because even this, if they have dictators in African countries, people, you won't believe this. Every other person, because a culture of corruption, you have to stifle the freedom of speech. You guys remember yesterday we talked about the toxic part of certain cultures, how children are treated because kids are not allowed to express themselves. Okay, it's like putting a lion, in a cage. When you put a lion in a cage and then you release that lion in the wild, when they grow up, they're not going to have the natural instinct of behaving like a lion. So that's what happens where, you're not allowed to express yourself for many. But the only thing they know is they are waiting for their opportunity, not to stop what these other ones are doing. They are waiting for their opportunity to even be more corrupt than them. You would see people working for government. Even their own parents are telling them, hey, what's stopping you from stealing? They don't say it like that, like saying stealing, because people, they feel like they deserve it. You go to places like Somalia, Guinea Bissau, Equatorial Guinea, Nigeria. I mean, I can just name country after country. You look at those countries, they are all destitute. And people like to mention the mineral resources. For example, it almost seems like Africans are raised and programmed to just destroy. And I'm going to lay it out. I remember as a child, I lived in Sierra Leone. I told you guys this. In fact, in a mining town, they have diamonds. My father was a diamond businessman. But when the civil war came, right, they have the Sierra Leonean rebels. They were in charge of these mines. They got a piece of the wealth. You would think, oh, these people are really wealthy, right? They're supposed to use those wealth because they said they came to fight corruption. So that's why when I talked about the Atlantic slave trade, how Africans were exchanging Africans for just tokens, alcohol, people got upset here. The fact of the matter is, this hasn't changed. The mindset is still the same. When these rebels control these diamond mines, what do you think they exchange those diamonds for? Weapons, trinkets such as phones, satellite phones, TVs, ordering more weapons so they can destroy their own country and their fellow countrymen. Liberia was no different. Angola, I can name countries. You go to Congo. So when people are in charge, they are not looking to uplift those people. In fact, they are looking to take from those people. Yes, you can make the argument that some of these countries, for example, Guinea Conakry, Sierra Leone, Liberia, these places have enough minerals, resources in their ground for them to be the wealthiest country. But how come they are not? How come they are not? Nigeria has oil. Angola has oil, diamonds. Congo has all these things. But at the end of the day, they are all useless because the Africans' mindset is when they are in charge, they have to practice nepotism. What is nepotism? They have to bring their tribesmen and put them in charge. That's what they do. And these people are not coming with the ideology of trying to develop Africa. I shouldn't say it broadly, but there are countries, that those various countries, They don't care about that. Mind you, the example that the corruption is not even today. You look at this, from slavery, even in the enslavement of Africans, sending them to the new world that we call Americas today. You look at what they sold humans for. It's not different than what they are selling the mineral resources for. Few people at the top are eating, and those wealth are never passed on from generation to generation. That's not what happens. Like people talk about, I gave you example of Mansa Musa. People say, I can't even believe people, beat their chest on that. Those are one of the most corrupt humans on the face of this earth. Just look at it. Enslaved your own people, become wealthy with gold, and then you give it away while keeping your own people in slavery. So that's why you have to put two and two together and understand what is going on. And mind you, a lot of these countries, the wealth that you see today in mineral resources, this is a fairly new thing. They discovered oil, they discovered diamonds, all during or close to white people being kicked out of there. It wasn't during colonialism. Some places did, but it's not that common. So this is entirely African control. So they are given, they have this. This is in the ground. This is, God himself put this there. But what did they do with it? In fact, they just gave themselves more power to subjugate other Africans, keep them in ignorance. If you go to most African countries, majority of the people are uneducated. In some of these countries, it's in the high 60s. In the high 60s, no good roads, no hospitals. These countries are still begging for donations. So these are not secrets. People can see this. People can see this, in everywhere. Because I've heard some people, they will say, oh, don't say that about Africa, as if this is a secret. Like literally, if people are not lazy, they can do, you don't have to click too many times for you to be able to see this. Or even you look at how many Africans are willing to die in the Mediterranean just to get to European countries. Why do you think they are doing that? Why? Because they see no future in those countries. Their futures have been stolen. Have been stolen by whom? Their own quote unquote leaders. And those leaders came from the communities. And at some point, we have to accept the truth if we truly, truly want a change. It's not just to send people to schools. Africa truly, truly needs cultural change. Not just in one area, but overall. People have to wake up to reality. And I have a video here, a couple of them, and I'm going to analyze this for you guys to see exactly what I'm talking about. Let's see. Mongo said, do you take questions? Mongo, I would open the line at some point. You can have the chance to call in, or I can answer the question. But there are some prominent, we know some prominent leaders in Africa. And what are they known for? Corruption. They took the corruption to a whole new level. A whole new level. Again, like I said, one man in charge, they want to control everything. They steal the resources of the people. So during my research, I came across a video that is very, very befitting to what I'm about to discuss here. You know, we can talk about the police, the nurses, the immigration officers. You know, they are just a symptom of the bigger problem. Not that they are not a problem, but I highlight that to show you. Imagine if the police are corrupt, they are taking bribes. How can you enforce the law? You can't. Some of these countries, they are like, oh, we have anti-corruption group. They say that so they can receive more donations. But who's going to enforce those? Not long ago, former South African president Jacob Zuma was just sentenced to serve jail time. Guess for what? Corruption. At least South Africa took the step to do that. Maybe that would deter others. But if you notice in most of these African countries, the reason why they have dictators, the reason why these people they want to hang on to power is because of that corruption. Because they've stolen so much that the only way for them to give themselves immunity from being prosecuted is they have to hang on to that power. So nobody can remove them. The only way they would face justice, it has to be done by force. But I don't want to keep you waiting. I'm going to play a video here to just give you a taste of some of the most corrupt, leaders that ruled, various African countries for you to see for yourself. Although this list doesn't even have, all of them, but these are some of their corruption is beyond corruption. Beyond corruption. And you'll be familiar with some of them on the list. I know some are going to try to deny it, but the fortunate thing is we're not reading this in history books. These are in newspapers in our present day. These are in newspapers. It's not like, oh, we got to read the history book and interpret it the way we want to. No, this is right now. Right now. So before I do that, I'm going to play the Pan-Africanist church music and then we'll get into the video. All right. Okay, let me answer Mango's question real quick before I play the video. Mango wants to know, the DRC Congo resources and government, are they managed by indigenous Congolese? Well, that's to be determined because the indigenous Congolese themselves, they've been conquered a long time ago. because you guys heard about King Leopold II, who colonized that territory. And King Leopold, in order to make that happen, you have to realize they didn't do it just with the Belgian soldiers. They had what they used to have called the First Republic. And this First Republic, they brought, Africans from other African countries to serve in this force to subjugate the actual indigenous Congolese people. So I think, it would be fair to say the actual indigenous Congolese people, I don't think they are in charge. A lot of the people that are in charge, their origin is from other African countries that the Belgian brought there, by having them in the First Republic, army to subjugate the Congolese people. So I hope that answered your question. But I'm about to play the list of the most corrupt, dictators that Africa has ever seen. And some are still there, they're alive. So this list is not going to surprise you if you're familiar with African politics.
Top 10 most corrupt African leaders of all time. Hello explorers, welcome back to another informative video and thanks for watching. In today's video, we shall be looking at the top 10 most corrupt African leaders of all time. From human rights violation to squandering funds for personal gain, when it comes to Africa, both during and after colonialism, Africans can be recognized for having some of the worst leaders the world has ever seen. Whenever you read on corruption,
I understand because some of the arguments I've probably heard, oh, it's just white people saying, oh, these people are corrupt. Hey, ask the people from those countries. Look at their conditions. Because sometimes some people who are into this black stuff, Pan-Africanist thing, they are in fact, I don't think they're doing it, accidentally. They are stifling the progress of Africa, because when you're discounting actual Africans' problems, they're telling the truth. Oh no, it's just white people saying that. That's the privilege of being a Westerner, especially American. You can just be black in America and just, deny what people are saying, despite seeing so many Africans from these places coming to the Western world and seeking asylum. Then if you're saying it's just white people saying this, then you're saying the Africans seeking the asylum are lying. So we have to be careful about what we want to deny. We have to understand why things are the way they are in these countries. Yes, I get sometimes your apprehension on what you're getting from the media. That's understandable. But that a lot of these things are absolutely true. They are facts. These people are not the best people. And this is just common in Africa.
you are told that the political will or the tone at the top of a country is the first foundation to fighting corruption. But when the person at the top is the one who brings about the act being fought against, it makes it hard to debunk such a practice. The leaders who tend to be most corrupt are as a result of absolute power, and their corruption goes beyond kleptocracy and embezzlement, as crimes against humanity are usually rampant. If you're new here, welcome. Be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss any of our daily uploads. The problem of corruption.
And please, I shared the link in the description. Go and subscribe to that channel. Great information, because his information with my research definitely match. So when I bring videos, I can see the individual even putting it together. They've done deep research on this that match the research that I've done. So I'm not just showing you just any video.
Corruption, as rampant as it is today, is not a recent phenomenon. Of the numerous corrupt leaders in Africa, come along as we review the creme de la creme of them all. Here are the top 10 most corrupt African leaders of all time. Number 10. Jose Eduardo dos Santos of Angola. Jose dos Santos, the second longest serving leader in Africa, as he has been in power since 1979. He rose to prominence as part of the People's Movement for the Liberation of Angola, which fought for Angola's independence. After the country's independence, he became a member of the Central Community and eventually served as a prime minister. On September 20th, 1979, he was elected as the second president of Angola and commander-in-chief of the armed forces. Jose dos Santos has repeatedly stated that he will step down and elections will be held, but elections always end up with him being re-elected. While on the
That's very common in these countries. Somehow you would see these guys winning in the high 90 percentage. So some people might come and say, oh, it's white people, doing it. But again, I want to remind you, Angola, the history, they fought with the Portuguese colonialists. I'm talking about battle, and they won militarily. It's not just they signed the papers and they won militarily. They conquered the Portuguese. So all the leverage is on their side. They don't have to listen to any European. So they have total control of their resources. They have oil, diamond, but their oil is, they have a lot. They have a lot. It's not, mostly people, when they think of Africa with oil, they think about Nigeria, but Angola has quite a bit too. And that's what they are known for. Angola, Equatorial Guinea, plenty of them. But let's hear his side.
surface, he has boosted the Angolan economy and developed the oil sector of the country. However, as per the Angolan economy growth, the wealth of its citizens remains stagnant, with almost 70% of the population living on less than $2 a day, while the budget of the government has grown to $69 billion. Under his rule, $32 billion in oil revenue disappeared. Corruption is like family business in the Dos Santos family. He has a net worth estimated at over $20 billion, and his daughter has a net worth of $3.8 billion.
You see, his daughter, I believe she's the richest woman in Africa. So when you guys hear about, oh, these people are the richest, know that these riches were not acquired in a fair way. These people are actually looting from their own country. How can they become billionaires? You see how the Angolan people are living under $2 a day. That's massive corruption. Massive corruption. So nobody's destroying Africa, but Africans themselves. These people are over there. They had their foot on the necks of the Angolan people while they are getting rich. The people are just, look at it. The guy's worth 20 billion. That's what they know. The daughter, 3.8 billion. Maybe that's what they disclose. They probably have more than that. So you have few. This is common in African countries. It's few at the top. They have massive wealth, and the rest are just peasants.
Number 9. General Idi Amin of Uganda. General Idi Amin first rose to prominence when he took the rank of Major General in the Ugandan army. Following its independence, he became commander of the army and then took power in Uganda through a military coup in January 1971. He was in power only for 8 years, but it was the worst years of Uganda's history. When he took power, he said he was not a politician and would not stay in power until free elections were held. But however, a week later, he declared himself president and suspended numerous parts of the Ugandan constitution. He created a military dictatorship where military officers were put in top positions of the government and military tribunals were put into civil laws. He created a state research bureau which would torture and execute anyone who opposed his rule. Thousands were killed and displaced during his rule, and he redirected most of the country's money towards the military and himself, which
And like with Idi Amin, I'm sure if anyone that is familiar with African politics, you would know about Idi Amin. In fact, they made several movies about him. The Last King of Scotland was made about him. Okay, the crazy thing is, that's what I've seen videos, channels, discussions where is Pan-Africanists. They support Idi Amin based on the fact that he kicked Indians out of Uganda. So they just seeing things through the prisms of race, but they don't understand that Idi Amin is subjugating his own people. Like he wasn't only against the Indians. As you can see, he killed his own people.
He left most of Ugandans to suffer in abject poverty. He took so much of the Ugandan money for himself, so much so that the inflation rate rose to 1000% by the time he was driven out of power. Number 8. Mobutu Sese Seko, president of Zaire, now the
This this is Mobutu. I mean, Mobutu's corruption is sick. I mean, I'm sure Mongo Congo, you can confirm that. I'm guessing you're from Congo. You know exactly how Mobutu decimated that country. You look at it, the Congo have pretty much everything. But again, Mobutu would prove exactly what I'm saying here.
Democratic Republic of Congo. The product of a missionary school education, Mobutu Sese Seko Koko Nguema Za was a serial coup plotter. During the 1960 Congo crisis, he led the coup that ousted Patrice Lumumba, the country's first democratically elected leader.
So, Pan-Africanists, you hear about Patrice Lumumba, you guys talk about him. Mobutu, in fact, was among the people. He's the leader who were among the people that killed Patrice Lumumba. So in Africa, people like Patrice Lumumba, they cannot survive. They're not going to allow it because there's so many corrupt people in their minds, people like Patrice Lumumba, who have the idea that, look, the nation belongs to the people, the resources. They know someone like him, would make sure, it is fair. So the type of stuff he was talking about, all that liberation stuff, freeing the people, you would think it was the white people that were against that. No, people like Mobutu, there's no way they would allow that because they want to be rich. They want to be richer than the people.
In return, he was appointed commander-in-chief of the armed forces. Less than 5 years later, he led a second coup, installing himself as the president. Declaring a regime d'exception, he assumed sweeping powers and went on to the rulership of the country for almost a third of the century. The original big man of Africa, Mobutu consolidated and kept power by creating a vast patronage network. Built on the exploitation of the country's immense mineral wealth, Mobutu used it to effectively nullify any opposition. Endemic governmental corruption, mismanagement, and neglect over a number of years led to hyperinflation of 4,000% by 1991, a large external debt, and a massive currency devaluations. Amidst all of this, Mobutu managed to amass one of the largest personal fortunes in the world. While the actual amount will never be known, he is alleged to have embezzled almost $8 billion. His excesses were legendary and included having the world's leading pastry chef Gaston Lenotre flown in from Paris by Concorde to personally deliver his birthday cake.
Did you guys catch that? Mobutu literally ordered a cake that was put in a jumbo jet to be delivered, his birthday cake to be delivered from France. So that's why, like, I hear some of these people, because people have this Western fantasy of blackness, whatsoever, and say, oh, these African countries, they need military. They do. These countries have their own militaries. Or people say they need nuclear bombs. Do you truly want these countries to have nuclear bombs? Because the militaries in these countries, who do you think they are loyal to? Because they're not worried about other African countries or other countries invading them. These people have military, in place against their own population. You don't think these dictators, do you think an African would bat an eye to use nuclear bomb on their own people? They won't waste any time. So for those who don't think these African countries have military, they do. They have several branches of military. But the military is there to terrorize the, the people. They are not there to protect them. They are there to serve their master, whoever is in power. I mean, some countries are better than others, but for the most part, they are there to do the bidding of the dictator. As you guys can hear, Mobutu's soldiers, were not there to protect the people because the type of corruption he was engaged in, they should have removed him forthright. But why do you think he lasted so long? Because the military was on his side.
While not publicly condoned, corruption was so systemic under Mobutu that at one stage he advised party delegates that if you steal, do not steal too much at a time. You may be arrested. Yibana Mayele steal cleverly, little by little. Holding onto power for 32 years, Mobutu proved him adept at maintaining rule in the face of internal rebellions, external invasions, and attempted coups. He finally relinquished power in May 1996 following an uprising led by Laurent Kabila. Mobutu, already terminally ill, fled to Togo and then to Morocco, where he died from prostate cancer the following year. Number 7. Charles Taylor of Liberia. Charles Taylor is one of the few corrupt leaders of this list who actually resigned from power. He was in power from 1997 to 2003. As president, he created his own private army while reducing the size of the actual armed forces of Liberia.
So you can see Charles Taylor is from Liberia. That's very interesting. So Charles Taylor, he is part what they call in Liberia Americo-Liberian, meaning his, grandfathers, his people, they came from the United States. It was the blacks, that moved to Liberia. So his father is an Americo-Liberian, and his mother is one of the Liberian tribes, because they used to have the distinction. I think they still do. They call the Americo-Liberians, the blacks that moved there, they call them Americo-Liberian or Congos. So they had, for the longest in Liberia, the people who ruled Liberia were black people who came from the United States, like former slaves, and then they continued on, because Liberia, even their first few presidents, they were directly, directly from the United States. Back in 1840s, they moved to Liberia. So Charles Taylor came from those people. Charles Taylor is part of those group whose people came from here in America. So they ruled Liberia for decades. So there was a clear difference between the blacks that moved from America to Liberia. They created an elite class. So the indigenous Liberians were considered aborigines, and the black Americans were considered the civilized group. Until 1980, that changed. Samuel Doe, who was an indigenous Liberian, killed, the president, who at the time, Talbot, who is American, descendant of slaves. So that ended that era, but it was just brief because Charles Taylor came back, and excuse me, Tubman. Charles Taylor started his rebellion and eventually became president. So Americo-Liberians were back in power again. So we'll allow him to continue.
Liberia. He was charged with war crimes for his time.
FBI and Niger, Afrikaners, did Americo-Liberians enslave the natives? No, I don't believe they did. But the natives were like the maids for the Americo-Liberians. Like they were the ones that do manual jobs for them. They're the ones that pretty much they were the maids. So they pretty much brought the same type of mentality, like, because mind you, these people were directly coming from American plantations. Now all of a sudden they were in charge in these places, but I wouldn't say there's no proof to say they enslaved them, but they were definitely, using them as maids, but not, slaves.
Ties with the violence in Sierra Leone in 2003, which included murder, enslavement, and the use of child soldiers. He was believed to have accepted diamonds in exchange for weapons to support the rebels in Sierra Leone. His corruption of the treasury was as bad as his human rights abuses, as he embezzled money not only for his own gain but also to fund rebels in other countries and to destabilize the region. In 1999, he was accused of being a gun runner and diamond smuggler. He was indicted on 11 crimes against humanity, and in 2003, he was asked to step down by international community. He was convicted and sentenced to 50 years in prison.
So as you guys can see, so it looks like this is an international thing. So we can't just say it's just the Africans from there. You see, even the Black Americans that moved there and and you know were put in charge, they became presidents, they also repeated the same thing. So it's an international thing, Black international thing.
Number 6. Idris Deby of Chad. Idris started his rise to fame in Chad when he joined the military. Idris Deby was the commander-in-chief of the army. He remained a strong and loyal member of the army until the central authority fell apart in 1979. He took power in the late 1990s and has been in power ever since. As president, he puts Chad on the path to economic growth with the building of an oil pipeline. However, the pipeline ended up bringing the corruption within Chad to the forefront. The revenues from the Chad-Cameroon pipeline development and the pipeline project was supposed to be used to combat famine within Chad. Instead, he took the funds to buy more weapons for the military in order to combat the numerous coup attempts against him.
Did you guys hear that? You clearly can see. You clearly can see when people say military, this guy spent money on the military. But look at what the military was for. Like Charles Taylor, he did it like a gang member, because Black people, they gotta do it like that. It's like putting a Pookie and Ray Ray in charge. So he had to have his own private military. He did it Black American style. Okay, I got the country, I got my own private military that are loyal to him. In fact, Charles Taylor, did escape Liberia one time when he worked for Samuel Doe. He came to the United States. He was accused of embezzlement from the Doe government, and he was locked up. They put him in jail in Philadelphia. He escaped, but it looks like it was orchestrated by the CIA. He escaped from jail because you guys know you can't keep Pookie and Ray Rays in jail for that long. So he escaped. He went back and started the war. Yeah, and Linda McCoy, you're right. Ellen Johnson was, also, American Liberian. Yeah, so he had his own private military. Idris Deby, the same thing. He bought weapons, but guess who the weapons were directed at? His own people, the Chad people. I mean, when it comes to corruption, Chad is no joke. No joke.
The regime has also been characterized by human rights abuses against its opposition, and it is clear the elections held since he took power have been fraudulent. In 2005, he eliminated term limits and said he will reinstate them in 2016, but the people have little hope that he will stand by his word. However, coup attempts continue to come after every election, and the economic conditions of the majority of the people continue to decline. Number 5. Omar Al-Bashi of Sudan. Omar Al-Bashi came to power in 1989 after he had led a military coup that ousted the democratically elected government of Prime Minister Sadiq Al-Mahdi. In 1993, he declared himself president and disbanded all rival political parties. He has
So you guys hear how these people roll, right? The moment they come in charge, now they disband any opposition. Like, hey, you can't run against me. Nobody is allowed. Even your Pan-Africanist prophet, Kwame Nkrumah. Why do you think he got run out of Ghana? Why do you guys think that happened? So this Pan-Africanist, so we're seeing all levels here. We're seeing the Pookies. The Pookies have been in charge. We're seeing Ray Ray's in charge. We're seeing the Pan-Africanists. We're seeing the Hoteps. These people were in charge. They're still in charge, but we're seeing what they are doing. Kwame Nkrumah, the Pan-Africanist, right? He was in charge. Why do you think they ran him off? He did not want anyone to oppose him. He created a police state. You can't say anything bad about him. Nobody can challenge him in election. He wanted to be the only one in charge. And the Ghanaians are like, nah, man, you know, we're not going to go for that stuff. So they didn't give Kwame Nkrumah the chance to mobilize the military against the people. You know, unfortunately, the Pan-Africanists, I think they regretted that part. So this is why they want to make a second run again. You know, we had Jammeh in Gambia. He called himself a Pan-Africanist, but he said he's the biggest Pan-Africanist. But if you look at his story, the Gambian people ran him off too. So for some reason, these people, they are just trying to sell us a bill of nothings. When they come in charge, they make the place poorer. Omar Al-Bashir, Sudan, man, this guy is terrible. He's no longer in charge, by the way.
3 elections since he took power and was re-elected each time. However, each election has been under fire for corruption. Omar Al-Bashi is the only standing president with multiple arrest warrants against him by the International Criminal Court. His warrants are mostly for crimes against humanity, mostly the crimes in Darfur, where he was said to be connected to the genocide that took place there. He was indicted for crimes of murder, extermination, torture, rape, forcible transfer, and other war crimes. However, since Sudan and Al-Bashi do not recognize the International Criminal Court, he continues to remain president. His corruption goes far beyond his crimes against humanity. He has also done a great deal of stealing from the country. It is suggested that he has had as much as $15 billion stashed across the globe. Number 4.
So imagine that. This guy, $15 billion, he got it stashed all over the world, people. I mean, at the time of, when they were making this video, I'm guessing he was still in power, but he's no longer in power. He got removed. The people finally had it. They rose up against them. This is why people when you hear African countries, like, people are rising up against the government, people think it's instability. No. Because the people, people are fed up. They are like, nah, how can just, one person, few people just be in charge? The people are like, nah, man, we've had it. They had to go against them. Because literally what they are doing, they underfund the schools, the healthcare, the health system, all that, so that the people wouldn't be empowered to go against them. So when I say the culture of corruption, how they breed it, you can see when somebody's mindset is blocked, they can't see outside. Now, the only thing they see is, okay, if I take power, I'm going to do worse than these people. Even though they don't like what was going on, but that's what they seem to resort to, unfortunately. Oh, yeah. I mean, Stoic one, you're right. They want to pedestalize Egypt. But even in Egypt, like, there's corruption in Egypt. Like, Gamal Abdel Nasser, when he was in charge, he's another Pan-Africanist. People don't know this because people look at Egypt and Libya, those places, and say, oh, they're Arabs. In fact, Gamal Abdel Nasser, he's the first Pan-Africanist. He was tight buddies with Kwame Nkrumah. He was tight with him. So they did exactly the same thing. People don't realize in most of these African countries, you can't oppose the president. Even if you say the president is ugly, you would be arrested at night. You would disappear. If you say that in public that the president is ugly, you will be in trouble. People think this is a joke. In some of these countries, they don't play that. But this one here, this is Equatorial Guinea. Pay attention to what they're about to tell us.
Theodore Obiang Nguema of Equatorial Guinea. Teodoro Obiang Mbasogo took power from
FBI Nigel is the people, not the place. Thank you for correcting that. The people.
his uncle Francisco Marcias Nguema in 1979. He holds power with an iron fist and remains the longest-serving leader in the world and the longest-serving president in Africa. He started his presidency on a positive note, saying that he will not have the same leadership as his uncle. But that is far from the reality he has brought his people as he continues to win presidential elections through fraudulent means, winning as much as 97% of the votes. He has also refused to step down from his position as president despite accusations of since 2011 of him violating the constitution. Assassinations by the government, unlawful imprisonment, torture and inhuman prison conditions. His theft of state funds has increased his wealth and that of his family to staggering levels. Obiang's and his cabinet receives millions of dollars each year from oil revenue, which does not translate to public spending, but he rather spends it on presidential expenses.
So that was the president of Equatorial Guinea. He's still there. You guys heard it. Even though this, Obiang guy, he toppled his uncle who killed 100,000 people plus, by the way. He came in charge. He's like, oh, I'll be better than my uncle. But look, Equatorial Guinea, their population is so tiny, 2 million. But this guy receiving millions of dollars from the oil revenue, him and his family members. His son is the vice president. The vice president. You guys have seen him. He's an Instagram celebrity. He's an Instagram celebrity. And he bought Michael Jackson's glove for so much. I mean, people. See, Equatorial Guinea, they made it on the list here twice. So they literally, they are among not only the most corrupt place in Africa, I would say in the world. Literally, in the world.
Number 3. Robert Mugabe of Zimbabwe. Robert Mugabe was the president of Zimbabwe from 1987 to 2018. He won the election for prime minister in 1980 and was sworn in as president when Zimbabwe gained its independence. As soon as he came into power, he created a single-party state and employed a North Korean security force to deal with any incidents. In December of 1987, he declared himself president and consolidated all powers of the state and gave himself the power to dissolve opponents and declare martial law. Mugabe.
Guys, I know you guys are saying people are gonna be upset. I know, but hey, only the truth can set us free. You guys can see, I did my research. I'm not the one making this up. This is true. Not only that one country is on the list, even Mugabe, who quote unquote, he said he's a Pan-Africanist, and now that Dr. Arikana, she's from Zimbabwe. You guys know. You can't trust people like this because it's all about corruption. Mugabe, who fought, militarily, he was a revolutionary, to free, Zimbabwe from white colonial rule. He said because if the Africans are in charge, they would do better. But Robert Mugabe became very corrupt. I know many people try to say it is the white people saying it. No, but you have to look at the conditions of these places. It's not that these people don't have the money. They have it. They have the money. They just stifle their people. That's all.
Mugabe continued to win presidential elections due to widespread corruption and fraud. Many believe that the corruption and fraud are the only reasons that he remained in power. Zimbabwe has the highest unemployment rate of any African country with a 70% unemployment rate. It is estimated that the country loses up to $3 billion to corruption every year. Most of his corruption comes from his desires to consolidate power and rig elections to stay in power indefinitely. He is also known for looting the diamonds deposits and killing or torturing his opponents. Number 2. General Zani Abacha of Nigeria. General Sani Abacha ruled for only 5 years, but during that time he operated a brutal regime which left Nigeria in abject poverty. He came to power through a military coup on November 17, 1993. During that time, he issued a decree that gave him absolute power, by placing the authority of the regime over that of the courts. He also issued a decree that will allow him to imprison anyone for up to 3 months without trial. However, General Abacha's economic achievements were very impressive given the dire conditions the state was in prior to his leadership. Today, General Abacha is considered to be one of the most corrupt leaders in history because of the amount of money he stole from his own country. The main export of Nigeria was oil. Abacha and his cabinet took control of nearly every aspect of the industry, stealing over $10 billion. Human rights abuses were also very rampant during his time in office. He was known to kill or imprison any opposition who dared him. Torture and lengthy imprisonment were also common practices during his regime.
You see, the Nigerians, they got rid of Abacha, not just making sure he's alive. They killed him. One thing with Nigerians, right? They have corruption there, but if you are the president, you want to be corrupt like that, I can assure you, you're not gonna leave. They will kill you. They didn't allow Abacha to leave. So yeah, they would do it like there's other people who would do stuff, the corruption. I'm sure the presidents, they would do it. But if you do it to the level of Abacha, the Nigerians, they would poison you. Abacha learned. Like they don't, they don't go for that. It's there, but they don't go for it. You just being one man taking all this money. So Abacha learned. Guys, you see, watch out for this one that is coming again. If one country makes it on the list twice, what does that tell you?
Number 1. Francisco Marcias Nguema of Equatorial Guinea. Francisco was the first president of Equatorial Guinea, and he created a bad example for those that will follow. Francisco became deputy prime minister in 1964, and he became president when he won the only free election that the country had ever held in 1968. Francisco declared that anyone who threatened the government would be punished with death. He also said that insulting the president or his cabinet was punishable by up to a 30 years prison term. During his reign,
did you guys hear that? When Francisco Marcias Nguema was president in Equatorial Guinea, you guys thought when I said the president, like saying the president is ugly, they would come and arrest you. You guys thought I was playing. This guy would put you in jail, in prison for 30 years for quote unquote insulting him. And in my investigations, I found even like Guinea Bissau also, the corruption level there is crazy because you see, Guinea Bissau is a hub for the Latin American drug dealers. They would import, like, for them to bring their drugs into America, they have to take it to Guinea Bissau, and transit it. So Guinea Bissau, the corruption there, it's criminal, literally criminal. But you guys see, this one country made the list twice. So the uncle was supposed to be the uncle. This is the uncle of the current president. He got removed. First, they showed you the nephew. You thought the nephew was corrupt. That's because you didn't know about the uncle. By the way, if you're just coming in, this is the country of Equatorial Guinea. Small country over there in Africa. They have oil. If they didn't have corrupt leaders, it would be a paradise. But over there, they stifle the people. They cannot, they don't have basic needs. The roads are all in shambles. I think the people literally live on $50 a day while they have all this money. You have the president made his son the vice president. Now he's an Instagram celebrity. So I'm not making this up. I'm not picking on any country. I'm just showing you what is happening in these African countries. Okay? And it doesn't mean these countries are the only corrupt one. I didn't even touch on Cameroon. I didn't touch on, Gabon and, places like Gabon, at least, they push some of the wealth to their people. That we got to give it to them. They have one family in power, but they do take care of their people. Okay, we can't say that. But this, imagine a small country like this, a small country like this, they have so much wealth. How do they have so many? How were they able to get dictators like this to be in charge? It's crazy.
Of terror, almost a third of the population of Equatorial Guinea were killed or exiled. He was a very paranoid man who relinquished powers to no one that he kept the entire national treasury under his bed. He was also distrusting of anyone who was educated or appeared to be educated.
In Equatorial Guinea, when this man was in charge, he's very paranoid, as you heard. Look, this man, even if you know how to read, you're getting killed. You guys heard it. I'm not the one making this. I'm not making this up. Literally, if you're somebody who likes to go to the library to read and stuff, you're going to offend him. So, you can't be walking around, with all that Shakespeare stuff talking about, all that education stuff. You can't be doing that because he's so paranoid. So, somebody like him was very open about it. But how many other African leaders do you think is very suspicious of educated people? I mean, he was a nutcase for sure. He was crazy for sure. That's why, you know, um, he just showed it. They see you with the book, you walking around talking about you reading a book. Oh man, you're getting arrested. Literally. I'm not making this up. You guys hear it. I read about this, and somebody else confirmed it by making a video.
He killed or exiled anyone who appeared to be educated. It therefore became extremely risky to have any books or papers in their possession. It is this paranoid mind that finally led to the end of Francisco Marcias Nguema's reign, as he was overthrown by his own nephew, Teodoro Obiang Nguema Mbasago, in 1979. There you have it, explorers. Those were the top 10 most corrupt African leaders of all time. Thanks for watching this video.
Did you guys see that? I mean, imagine. So when people say, it is other people stifling the progress of Africa. For example, places like Equatorial Guinea, you think the Chinese or the white people are able to tell them anything? Like if you look at it, some of these countries that change their behavior, for instance, like Kenya, right? Kenya, eventually they started changing their behavior. You see how quickly they're progressing. I mean, even Nigeria, I bet this would surprise you guys. In the index, when you go look at it, Nigeria have changed quite a bit. Because they show you the corruption index. Nigeria is in the green. Is in the green, meaning, they've improved quite a bit, as far as corruption goes. Because you go to places like Somalia, they don't have any like central government in charge. It's literally criminals running the show. Guinea-Bissau, like Fuller Sports just said, I read this, where cocaine would wash off offshore because the Colombians are bringing so much cocaine into that country. It's crazy. Oh, FBNI just said, Afridamas, the Africans abroad say the West is destabilizing. Man, that's a cop out. These people, they don't know what they are talking about. You have seen the videos here. I mean, imagine some of these places, like you've seen how much money they have. This is supposed to go to the people. But why are the people poor? Why? The people shouldn't be poor. The people shouldn't be poor. These people are paranoid. In fact, you've seen where if they even, I mean, these people are worse than the slave masters. Okay? They are worse than the slave masters because if you read, they would say, oh, oh, you are a threat. You're a threat to the society. They would put you away. So this is why when you go to these African countries, by the way, in the index currently, what it showed, my Gambian people, I want you to pay attention. Gambia is in the red. They said Gambia, the corruption is worst in Gambia. So it's not only Equatorial Guinea, just in case some people get out of hand. Ghana is in the red. They say Ghana is very corrupt. Very corrupt. Oh, Guinea-Conakry is definitely in the red. But the measure was during Alpha Conde, when Alpha Conde was there. So I will have to wait and see, what the next result would be. But they were definitely in the red. Mali in the red. Burkina Faso in the green, meaning they are against corruption. They are up by 4%. Even Libya is in the red. You go to these places, you want to set up a company, you have to bribe, several government officials. Like, how is this place going to develop? It's not going to happen. I'm going to open up the lines here. Please, people, if you come on here, make sure you stay on topic. Stick with the program. If you have issues saying that it is white people that did this, it is a different topic today. If you want to blame the white people, that's another show. Maybe another day we will have that show to blame the white people and the Chinese. But for today the topic is about these corrupt African leaders. Those are the people we're talking about. So I just dropped the link. Hit the link, get straight to the topic and, just lay it out, okay? All right. We have Fuller Sport in the house. Welcome. I haven't seen you last couple of times.
No, I was in the in the I was in the chat the
Oh,
last
okay.
couple of times. Yeah. Yeah. No, you're absolutely right with when it comes to the level of corruption in Africa. And again, unfortunately, these leaders are greedy. You know what I mean? You mentioned Guinea Bissau. I can
Oh,
tell you,
yeah. Yeah.
uh,
Fuller Sport. You're from Guinea Bissau.
right?
I'm pretty sure you are aware of how the type of corruption that's in Guinea Bissau. Like Guinea Bissau, literally, no president finishes their term so far.
Military juntas all the time.
Military juntas. And on top of that, are you aware of how they now the drug dealers, the Colombians that
I'm gonna tell you a story. I'm
go
gonna tell
for
you a
it?
story. So, I have a uncle in the military. His name is Arsenio Balde. Um, I hate to say this, but I'm just gonna go ahead and say it. But he got pulled over. The military, he was driving a military truck. He got pulled over. Um, and inside that military truck was like 40 kilos of cocaine. Um, his so I'm talking to him on WhatsApp. I'm like, hey, like, what the hell are you doing? Like,
Right.
what's going on? Like, what's what's this about? He said, oh, we didn't know the kilos were inside the truck. We thought we
Oh,
were just we thought we were just transporting supplies to the government. We had no idea what they were.
do you
And
think
so I
he's
was like,
telling the truth?
Of course not. So what I'm trying to get at, what I'm trying to get at is not only are Colombians selling drugs there, but the military and the government are some of the biggest drug dealers in Guinea-Bissau. Um, when you go to Guinea-Bissau, you see these villas, you see these sports cars, these dirt bikes and stuff like that. They're Colombians who own those things. But some people don't understand is that most of the money that Africa gets comes from outside of the country.
Right.
It comes from us, sending money back there, and it comes from other people doing things that they have no business doing, you know, um, in Africa. Uh, I remember this one guy, he was a Balanta. Yeah, he was a Balanta. The cocaine, like came up on shore. At first he thought it was like some kind of tribal, some
Oh,
like
you know
tribal
what?
powder.
That's what I was gonna ask you about when when the cocaine was washing offshore. I saw video of that where people were using it. They thought it was just some white powder. They were,
No. Yeah,
putting it,
yeah,
like using it as cement on their house,
yeah,
as
yeah,
paint. Like,
yeah.
FBI Nigel
But
is
but
asking. He said he didn't know the cocaine market was in West Africa.
but
Trust me, it's in Guinea-Bissau.
but here's what happened. At first they were using the cocaine for like tribal things and stuff like that. But then once they found out what it was, they start to sell it too. The locals got their hands on it and they're like, hey, this is very much a big money business. So the cocaine would go to Europe, but they would become middlemen and get like money for the cocaine going to Europe, going to Australia, going to New Zealand, and places like that.
And the
Um,
United States, probably.
yes, possibly in the United States, because the thing is, you look at the you know you look at what these leaders do and stuff like that, and most of the international community turns a blind eye to it unless it affects their money. That's why they took out Gaddafi, because he was going to affect their money. They're like, oh shoot, we can't let this happen. We gotta we gotta go in there, you know. But if you're not really affecting anything, they don't care, you know.
So for sport, if you look at
Yeah,
what
yeah,
I've been talking about and showing the videos,
yeah.
I'm sure you're not surprised by,
Of
what you've
course not.
seen.
Of
But
course not.
if you look at it like, because when people hear some of these things, they are shocked. But is this like, the mindset, is it like a cultural mindset where, these people, they just don't care? It's like every man for himself.
Listen, most all of Africans are in survival mode when you're in Africa. I would say there's only a handful of African states where people are living okay. People are living decent lives. There's
Right.
only a handful. But when you're in survival mode, what are you gonna do? You know what I mean? What are you gonna do? You're either gonna do what we did with, because listen, man, I had to leave home when I was like 8 years old. My parents sent me abroad. They're like, "There's nothing here.
Right.
We got to send you. We got to send you away. You come back on holidays and stuff like that, and that'll be that." But what are
and
you
and
gonna do?
and and you know because like some people, they like to say, oh, these African countries need more weapons, they need military. Can you can you explain that, they already have
Uh,
military, they have
Okay,
the guns? Do they really even need more? Because these guns are not pointed at, to say, external threats. For example, in Guinea-Bissau, like the military, the gunmen,
Listen, listen. What is the cause of most of the destabilization in Africa? Military juntas,
right.
civil war. Guinea-Bissau, we came out of a civil war. You know, like once Amilcar Cabral was taken out and his brother took over, who didn't really do what his brother wanted him to do, all hell broke loose in Guinea-Bissau. I think it would have been different if it would have happened where the two countries were together. If Guinea-Bissau and Cabo Verde became one, then it could have been different. But because Amilcar Cabral was taken out, it didn't happen that way. And then civil war happened in Guinea-Bissau. Even with Nigeria, once they got independent, they went to civil war. The one leader, for example, I think because I was watching a movie about it, they had one guy named Shehu Shagari.
Yeah.
He was a good president, but he was around corruption. You know, people who were with him were corrupted. Then you had, I think it was Buhari, and yeah, you had Buhari next.
Yeah, they
The
had
thing is,
Yakub
yeah,
Gawan who they
yeah, yeah,
killed, you
yeah,
know.
yeah, yeah,
But
yeah,
in your opinion,
yeah.
let's say places like Guinea-Bissau, seeing what's going on, do you see any changes, let's say in the next 10 years? Do you see any changes in a positive direction? Because also, can you talk about, I mean, I'm not quite, I don't know much about Cape Verde.
Okay, yeah.
Is Cape Verde a stable country, not,
Believe it or
less
not,
corruption, or,
yes. Believe it or
touch on
not,
that?
believe it or not, Cape Verde is pretty stable. As a matter of fact, Cape Verde is actually one of the places where corruption is not at an all-time high. The only thing that Cape Verde lacks is natural resources. And because it's kind of dry and stuff like that, it's hard to like grow things there. But other than that, Cape Verde is pretty stable. As a matter of fact, that's why I decided to get my apartment over there
Okay.
versus like getting it in Bissau or getting it somewhere else where I have family, because it is relatively stable there. You know, you can do things there. It's a pretty smooth operation over there, you know,
Yeah,
surprisingly.
yeah, I usually don't hear chaos, you know, from Cape Verde. But, because I know some are going to come and say entire Africa. There are some places that
Yeah,
are okay, even the
just
most,
okay.
like most of the most corrupt places. I didn't even put some of them on the list.
Of
The
course.
list is super long. If I want to show all of them, we would be here till tomorrow. Because even, what's the name? South Sudan.
Yeah,
South Sudan, the newest country in Africa. Their corruption is beyond belief.
exactly. And you know, the crazy thing is many people thought that by them separating, it would be better for them, but it's worse now. The thing is when people like have these separatist groups, it's not going to be good. Like,
In
you
fact,
know,
I have a video here.
yeah,
I have a video. Now this touch I have a video of South Sudan, because I've seen several videos where, even I think it's the vice president's son, as usual. These people, you know how Africa goes. You thought Nguema's son was the only social media celebrity. These Sudanese also, South Sudanese, is on there. He spread out money in the bed like a rapper, just, showing people how he's living. It's really
exactly.
crazy.
Yeah.
We have Diogo in the house. I'll bring him in too. But go ahead.
No, for example, like I have a relative who worked in Nigeria for like he had a contract for like 3 months. He told me that one of the finance ministers they went into the finance minister's house and they found like 27 million US dollars under his bed. So
Wow.
this just goes to show you how 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 people loot. It be your own people that loot the place.
Let me answer this question. Cornelius Bronax said, he says, so I want to know, hearing this from both of you and being a native born black man from America, what are the benefits of black Americans to expatriate to Africa in mass? Okay, I would say if you're doing it in a group, you have to have a plan in place already. Do not, whatever you do, you got to look at which countries are way more corrupt. Try to avoid those countries. Avoid, politicians. Um, do not show that you have money. Don't show that. Stick with the group that you're going with and slowly do the things you want to do. But the moment you start dealing with, officials, because some of these countries you cannot avoid them. There's no way you can avoid them. I get it why people go to places like Gambia. There's corruption there, but you can operate on your own. If you're not part of the politics, you can do your own thing away from, the governmental thing. But yeah, you got to stick with your group, man. I know some people have tried to say, oh, you got to deal with such and such. There's, just find like minded people. Even when you get there, you'll be able to tell, find like minded people. But you would have to avoid the politicians. That's for sure. If you want to be able to gain anything, avoid them. Oh, Diego, go ahead. Welcome to the show, Diego. Oh, Diego, I can't hear you.
Hear me? Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you now. Oh, Diego, hold on. Let me answer Cornelius.
Okay,
Yes,
so
Cornelius,
so
the
yeah, so
perception is
this
there
this
that from America you have money, but you just have to know how to navigate, truly. Um, perception, they can have that perception, but you have to be smart with it. That's a fact. You don't want to be a part of, you know, what they have going on. Diego, welcome.
yes. So
So,
basically,
so,
I
so
I, I
Diego,
agree with
Diego, tell
yeah.
people where you are calling from so that they can put a real context on the, what you're about to talk about so they know for sure. You're calling
Uh
straight from Africa. So they tell them where you're
yes.
calling from so they know.
I'm from Mozambique in Africa, Southern Africa. Yeah. So basically, this is it. The African, he's corrupt. He is definitely corrupt. But the corruption with him comes, I believe, from a mental thing. Because what I've realized amongst Africans is Africans don't like to think. So they will always look for the easy way out, and this is why the politicians are corrupt. They are looking
Right.
for a easy way out. And there's other thing I will say that a lot of people will not like hearing it, but The African, he is not a civilized species. You see, the fact that he's civilized or living in a civilization is because of his interaction with different groups of people. This is
Right.
why, from the political system to everything in African society, is not created from the African is not the one who created it. So the fact that he is living in a civilization is not his creation.
So for instance, for example, like Diego, if you look at the people, the leaders that are in charge, like the videos I've shown, they're, I'm very aware that they are just a symptom of what this society really is and how people think. But now, when we go to the wider society itself, do you think the way people think and act already encourages this type of behavior?
Definitely, definitely. No, you need to understand the politician is just a creation of the African environment. He is not very much different from the majority of people.
Right.
This is a cultural issue. You know, this is no, the corruption comes from wanting the easy way out. This is where it starts. So if you like working and liking solving issues, you will not be a corrupt individual. So
Do
Africans
you think
like
these
easy
people,
stuff.
like,
They like
for
comfort. They
instance,
like the
right?
easy way out.
For instance, I don't know if you caught the early
Yeah.
part of the show, right? I even make the comparison, like being someone that, lived in America for quite some time, and I've met several different kinds of people. Um, so like in America, you will see, people, they take pride in the work they do, whether black, white, blue, or green. It doesn't matter. I know that's gonna shock some. Like usually they probably, because sometimes people will be like, "Oh, black people work too." I know that. I work with black people before. You know, and but in Africa, for some reason, you don't see the people, not all, but most, they don't take pride in their work, and this lack of thinking is something that I have seen as well, where they, like this, especially the politicians, they have no, mentality, like ideology of uplifting the people. Have you noticed that as well? Not just the politicians, but all throughout society,
Most
because
definitely.
they have to teach children these things. Like in America, right? Um, it's like, because I know some are gonna say, "Oh, it's corruption in America," but um, it will be hard for somebody to make that argument, because in America you can lift yourself out of, being, financially insufficient. If you want to, you could do that quickly. Like the means are there, the laws allow it. But is that possible? Like, let's say in Mozambique?
No, it's not possible. Even in Mozambique, people, when you want to go the individual route, they will make it difficult for you. You know, if you want to register a business, they make it difficult for you. The people already in the business you're going to register, they don't want you to register the business. They're looking you as a young individual. You want to start
Jealousy.
something for yourself. They are hate. Yes. So it starts right there. You see, so it's very hard for the African to progress because they always look to oppress one another. You see,
Right.
from from the school system to when you want to start your own business, the people you're supposed to pay taxes don't want you earning a lot, but he doesn't think know that the more you earn, the more you're able to pay in taxes. But he hates you for earning more. So I
Right.
don't see Africa developing because of the mentality of the people. It's
so
not
so
this
you
white people thing.
so a few months back, I did an interview on Kinganda on O'Shea Dukes Jackson's channel, and I said that most of these African countries, they need to be recolonized, and many people were very upset. And they said, "You're wrong. You don't know what you're talking about." Do you think it was wrong for me to say that? Or like I don't know what I'm saying? Do you think that's a fair assessment of what I've said?
Well, no, no. What you said is a good thing to bring to the table. It makes sense to say something like that because reports will prove that the African was more productive while colonized. And people were saying that the
Right.
Europeans built the borders. No, no, listen. The fact that the European built the border is what made the Africans start warring, going to wars against each other. Because think about it.
Right.
Before having such borders, the blacks, the Africans in the continent, were having wars with each other. But when the Europeans
Tribal
brought the
wars.
borders, one thing that benefit the African is they stopped, yes, they stopped wars against each other. You see, so I believe that the African needs to look into himself and see that he is not ready or capable to govern himself. This is the truth.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm glad you said this because it's literally, it seems like you even watched the interview that I did on Kinganda. And I know most of the time when I say things, people get really triggered because they believe in some fantasy, you know. And for instance, like let's say if a group of black people in America, right, want to come to Africa, bring the American work
Can
ethic.
I answer a question real quick
Yeah, yeah, go for it. Go for it.
to FBA?
Nigel.
Yeah, to FBA Nigel. Moroccans are not really satisfied with their kingdom right now, and they're protesting, striking, rioting. I know it's not in the news, but Morocco is in North Africa, um, and people are not really happy with what's going on in Morocco right now. So, if that answers your question, then I hope it does.
Another thing also that encourages the corruption, tribalism. I see that, like, Bernard said here, many, different, they have separatist groups, which is based on tribe, which is true. Is happening in many places. Because if you guys remember, a few years back in Kenya, they had that tribal thing going on. Um, Raila Odinga, you know, um, he's from, I believe, the Luo tribe, and they have the other tribe where, they, if you saw what they were talking about, they said it is our turn. It is our turn to eat. So, Diego, you being in Africa, you think somebody being completely
You know,
separate, right, from any of these tribes, can you bring any progress in that environment?
you know, I'm laughing right here, Afridamus, because what you just said is what people where I'm from say as well. That it's our turn to eat. They say it
Hmm.
exactly like that, but just in Portuguese. Since we are Portuguese speaking countries, but we have a different way of governing here. So my country is divided in south, center, and north. So, and the president has 5 years to govern. So each 5 years, it will be a southern president, then a president from the center, then the north. So he comes from people from his tribes as well. So when it's the southern president's time, the tribes will be from the south. When it's the center, the tribes will be from the center of the country, then the north of the country. This is how they divide things. So
So the
it will be very
corruption
hard
is
to.
is not going away.
Yeah, it's not. No, no. Corruption will not go away in Africa right now. It's something we need to realize that, because
Well,
it's inbuilt.
when you, not to cut you off, but when you look at African civil wars, what was the cause of it? When you look at the Nigerian civil war, it was Igbos wanting to separate Who were they fighting? They were fighting Hausas and Yorubas. When you look at Ivory Coast Civil War, it was a majority Northern Muslim, I guess, Manding speaking people versus a Southern, mostly Christian, non-Mandate speaking people. Um, so tribalism, unfortunately, is deeply entrenched in our conflicts. And I got flack for it, but because I'm a Fula, um, I when our president got elected, Sissoko, I said another joke in office, and so some, tribalist Fulas were like, "Oh, Ko Gorko Pulo, Ko
Yeah, it's about
yeah,
yeah,
and
yeah,
it's like, and I'm like, I don't care. He's still the same like the rest of these leaders, His tribe doesn't matter."
yeah. Like for instance, like Diego, you're over there in Africa, right? Let me ask you this question. Let's say an African individual like myself who's from there, understanding mentality, but see what the problem is, right? And obviously, I more assimilated in the American society and understand how, a black person in America think. Let's say they form a group with, several black Americans and come to try to be the example of how they should do stuff, right? Do you think that would work?
It depends. It depends. But what I will tell you is, if you come and let's say you open businesses and you guys become successful, the people in the country will start presenting. I can guarantee you that. So I say it depends because it depends on how you guys will change things. But in a political environment, y'all wouldn't be able to change nothing.
Right. But you think my point is because when I was doing the research, it matches things that I knew and remembered in Africa, which is if you want to start a business, like here in the United States, if you want to start a business, you just get your business license. Um, you don't have to bribe anyone. You just apply for it. They send it in the mail. You pay your fees. That's it. So the biggest obstacle, my thing is, if you just even want to be an individual, you want to do your own thing, do you think they would applaud that or they would put the roadblocks in your way?
Well, where I'm from, they will put the roadblocks, especially if you are local and you want to do big things. No, no, no. Unless you eat with the government. If you eat with the government, that's a good thing. They will like allow you to move forward however you want to go. But if you don't eat with the government, no, this is why they like when the foreigners, especially white foreigners, they like when white foreigners open businesses in our countries.
Hmm.
This is if you come to my country, you'll realize that a lot of big businesses are owned by white people. And
Are these
because this is
mostly
what the African
Portuguese?
wants. He wants the white men to open big stuff for him.
They want to be under the rule of white people. Is that what you're saying? Go ahead, unmute yourself, Diego.
Can you repeat what you said?
I
Can you
said
repeat?
so pretty much they are more comfortable. They want to still be in under white people, like non-African people. Let me answer this question real quick. Bernard said, Afridamus, what country do you think will break off separate next in your opinion? Well, from what I'm saying, um, There's a heavy fight going on over there in Ethiopia. The Tigray region, um, they call the TLF. So they are fighting with the current Ethiopian president, and they look like they want their own sovereignty. And I don't know the way that is looking. It might end up like uh, a Eritrea situation, a breakup. But who knows?
You know,
And
Afrodamus, to be honest with you, man, I see most African countries dividing themselves. Most. I'll explain
yeah,
to you why.
go for
Because
it.
as the as the population numbers increase, the poverty will increase. You know,
Right,
and with the African mentality of tribalism, you need to understand the tribes will get bigger to the point where they can have their own countries and be sovereign. You see, so you might have countries with five tribes divided in cells, one country becoming five countries, you know, each tribe wanting to do for self. I see this thing happening in the future. Because think about it, just Nigeria, it's they say in 2050 they will have 1.2 billion people. And if
wow.
you still have the poverty you have in Nigeria with this amount of people, they will divide. You see, and each tribe will have enough people to be their own country. You see, so I see this being the future of Africa. A continent with like 100 countries.
But if you look at it, the lack of you know education, and people cannot deny this. Um, People resorting back to the tribal mentality, which is usually is just whatever ideology they have only benefit, their tribesmen. Um, do you think that would be the best solution for Africa, for Africans to stick with their tribes, like many a group of people come together, or the present nations that we have of different tribes living in one area and forming a government?
You know, it will be a good thing. It can be a good thing and it can be a bad thing. It depends on how the African approaches this, because he will he will have to trade with other tribes. You see, so if he can establish relationships with other tribes, he will not have a good economy for his tribe. You see, this is the issue
Right.
that we're having. So it depends on how he approach. If he wants to hate everybody else because they're from a different tribe, it will not work for him. But if he can trade with other tribes, the tribes that will be able to trade and be good in business will, will do good for self.
So do you think, for instance, because in the West, right, where it's countries that are prosperous, is capitalism, and those of us that are socialized in this system, we see the progress, we have skills to make things happen, right? And we're not limited by tribal thought. Do you think people from America or the Caribbean, like, where things are based in, you know, um, just black, it's like black people, but speak the same language, almost the same form of thought? Do you think that would thrive in in these societies where it could be like a separate enclave, where the people can look at it and say, hey, that's a perfect example of how to do things?
Uh, I don't think so. I don't think so. You know, because Africa is very complex. I say Africa is not about how smart you are. It's about how
Right.
dumb you can be. You
Huh.
know, this is why I tell people it's not about how smart you can be. It's about how dumb you can be. You know, so it depends on how they approach things. But I don't see as a group of people. You know, if they come to Africa and do what they're supposed to do, which is take the resources and take it to where they're from, they can be successful.
Oh, and full of sport. Guinea-Bissau is a former Portuguese colony, like Mozambique.
Correct.
Um, Do you do you guys have the same? Do you guys have like relationship, like you guys trade with each other since you both Portuguese countries?
To be honest, not really. In fact, Guinea-Bissau only has like one kind of, I guess you
Export?
can, yeah,
Is that the
because
cashews and now
yeah,
the
the
cocaine
cashews,
and now
yeah,
the cocaine?
the cocaine and the cashews, the two C's, and and the thing is, Milcar Cabral was trying to like change that and expand upon our agricultural sector, but it never got the chance. And cashew is the main thing, basically, right now. There was
You
one
know,
story. There was one story that my uncle told me. This is a different uncle, where one individual in the government, and it's sad that he was from the same party that my dad was from, the PAIGC. One of them had like a Mercedes drop top car. They had like a Mercedes drop top car. They were trying to drive it, but the roads were so messed up that it got stuck, basically.
wow. So wait. So they're making all that money and they
Mhm.
didn't even make the roads for the cars.
Yeah, that's how backwards we are.
That's Gambia for you too.
Yeah.
Wow. You know, I get it. Like there's so much corruption. There's a reason why I bring these topics to wake people up to find solutions. But before I let you guys go, I want to hear from both of you. What do you think the solution is, if there is any? Like, if there's, is there any
Let me.
hope?
Can I go first?
Go for it.
Okay. In my opinion, I believe that smart Africans should bond together and try to create a new country inside Africa. This is one of my solutions to the problem, because
Okay.
in Africa we have a critical issue of illiteracy, and so I don't see the governments investing on such, because the governments profit from the miseducation and the African being dumb. You see, they benefit from that, and we
Right.
need to accept that majority of people in Africa are dumb. Right. So I don't see that changing. So smart black people should create a new country for them to work for them.
Hmm.
See, but other thing I wanted to tell you, just are you finishing your show?
No, I'm still here. You can stick around.
Okay, I'll stick around. So other thing I wanted to tell you about the mentality of the African is, if you look at something that's going on with us, is we haven't mastered our habitat as Africans, because
This is true.
we haven't mastered the land, we haven't mastered the ocean.
This is
So
true.
I was talking with a friend one day and telling him how, if I send a picture to a lady and tell them I was fishing, they will lie. But this same people wants me to take her out to a restaurant to eat an expensive fish. And this is how the African thinks. You see,
Right.
if you show them that you're fishing, they see it as a joke. But if you don't pay them from that expensive fish at the restaurant, they laugh at you. They call you poor. You see, so we
Right.
cannot move forward with people who think like this.
It's backwards. Backward thinking. I want both of you to stick around for a little bit here. We have two Niger in, but full of sport. Do you think there is any hope?
Well, it may sound cliche, but I think we have to take the ideas and make it into our own, meaning we have to take the ideas that the people left before us who had Africa in mind, Africa first, but we shouldn't necessarily shut everybody else out. But we also have to understand that certain things that we don't have, other people have, and we have to learn how to get those things and in order to like help ourselves. For example, like I mean, if we don't have an infrastructure, which a lot of African states don't, we obviously are going to have to hire others from the outside to learn how to build an infrastructure. And then once we do it and learn how to do it on our own, then maybe, just maybe, progress can be made. But if you have what's going on
Well,
right now
well,
in
that's not
Africa,
gonna the corruption. It won't change
yeah,
it.
yeah, and that's what I'm saying. We have to ask ourselves this question: is there really a leader in Africa that is going to put the needs of the people first? That's question number one. And question number two: how long will he live before his work is done? That's what we have to really ask ourselves.
Right,
You know,
right. We have two Niger. Um,
You are a troublemaker, aren't you? You are trying to a kind of trigger Africans. Is that it? Calling us the most corrupt place on earth. Corruption, corruption, corruption. You think corrupt Africa is
well,
the most
just
corrupt
so
place?
two Niger. Just
Hmm?
FYI, today,
Mm-hmm.
we don't want to derail from the topic. This is strictly about Africa. We don't want to talk about other groups of people.
Oh
So
God, this is funny.
this is we gotta stay on topic.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with Chinese, Japanese, white people or
Mm-hmm.
people from space. This is strictly
Mm-hmm.
about Africa, because over here we are pro Africa. We want to talk about Africa.
You are in America, say you are okay, fine. Okay, let me just play with you then. Since you are saying let's restrict it to Africa, isn't it? Okay, let me start with the clear statement. Corruption is not why Africa is where it is.
Explain.
Corruption is a tool that people use to circumvent the law. It's not a tool that necessarily gets the resources out of the system. Our problem is that the resources is leaving the system. When you work and you are supposed to put money in an account and the account leaves your country, that is a problem. That is the real problem we have. We don't
So
have any way of controlling our resources properly on
so
the
do you
continent.
think, for instance, few people in charge, right?
Hmm.
That in fact have become wealthy off of these very resources you're talking about. Most of these men, women, or whoever, they've become billionaires. They've earned billions for themselves. Most of them continue, you know, to earn billions.
Hmm.
So they have the money. They appoint themselves as their leaders. They surround themselves with a powerful military. The people are not allowed to arm themselves. um, the soldiers are loyal to them, and so they have the resource, they have the money from the resource which belongs to the people, by the way, but only few are benefiting. How do you explain that? Like, how do you
The,
explain that?
the problem is that when you say they have the money, the truth is they don't have the money. Because if they have the money and the money was in that country, the country would be moving forward. Let me explain. If you steal money today, what do you think you're going to do with the money? You want to spend it, don't you? You want to hire somebody to build a house for you. Maybe hire a few, women, go to nightclub, do your thing. Economy is moving, isn't it? Then you want to, say, like, okay, I want to establish something. I want to make something for myself. I want to build a company like you are doing. People will get hired, isn't it?
Let me ask
This
you
is
this
how
real quick.
economy works. So
Let
the
me ask
corruption
you.
is not the problem.
Let me ask you. Do you think Sani Abacha was a problem for Nigeria? He's corrupt. What would you consider, like, Sani Abacha keeping all those billions for himself? What would you call that?
Did they keep the money in Nigeria?
That's not the question. He was in power, right? Representing Nigeria.
Yes.
and he took the wealth that belonged to Nigeria. It
Yes.
doesn't matter what he did with it, but he took it as a personal wealth.
Yes.
So, don't you think that's a problem for Nigeria?
I think that is a problem depending on why he took it.
Okay.
We don't know why he took it, do you?
Oh, he it doesn't belong to him. It belongs to the people.
I think because when he makes it to become a military leader without taking permission from the people, now he wants to start taking permission. He thinks so.
Okay.
That works for them.
So, another leader, right? Angola, their president, he's worth 20 billion. His daughter, 3.8 billion. I believe she's like first or second richest woman in Africa. And the people are barely making it. They live off of $2 a day. They are poor healthcare, destitute. So you don't you want to tell me what would be the reason for these people to take all that money for themselves? You don't think that's a problem?
Taking the money for themselves, knowing fully well that the money is not going to get back to the people, that is a true evil.
No. A leader, just because you're a leader doesn't mean the wealth of the country belongs to you, just you. So if you take that wealth for your own use, you don't think that's corrupt and that's a problem?
Yes, it's a problem, but you have to remember the people themselves are part of the problem. You
I did
can't
say
keep
that.
blaming leaders. You can't be blaming the
Well,
leaders alone.
I know, I already talked about that. I said it's a culture that allows corruption, in these places because the people come from those societies.
True.
So it's a culture that encourages corruption. This is why I said Africa is the most corrupt place on the face of this planet.
No.
So, well, we can agree to
And
disagree,
and
but
and
but
remember, you are the one
again,
bringing the planet into it now. And
well, well,
when I go into the planet, you're like, no, don't talk about the planet.
so
But I'm targeting Africa as the worst
okay,
on the planet.
because if you compare African countries, you know, to the most developed places in the world, considering what these countries, the resources they have the same resources or more than other places, but the citizens, majority are benefiting from those resources to a point they even bring in extra people like you and I who also benefit from it. Okay, so
You just open the door, don't you?
no, I'm just telling you. Let's take. You see, all the panelists
you
here,
just you
all
just
the.
open the door.
Hold on,
And
all
I
the
will walk through
panelists.
that door.
Wait, all the
Go
panelists,
ahead.
right? We're talking about the African corruption. So my question to you, a leader of these nations, taking the resources, the money, and everything for themselves, you don't think that's a problem?
It's a big problem.
You don't think if they use, I mean, like those billions, right? They trying to keep for themselves. They invested in educating the people, building good hospitals, building infrastructure, building roads, um, creating jobs for the people, where the majority would benefit instead of just the president and his family, few people benefiting. So something like if you and I, they gave us a sandwich and it belongs to you and I, a foot long sandwich, and you're starving, and I just keep the sandwich for myself when I can give you half of the sandwich. Wouldn't you find me to be dishonest, corrupt, and heartless?
Yeah, I will find you to be that way. I agree. See, Okay, let me put it this way. When you put it like from the point of view of the continent, people actually wrongfully taking resources that doesn't belong to them, then use it for their own whatever reason. That is wrong because you're not supposed to do that.
That's
However,
what stunting.
how,
That's what is keeping Africa on its knee
but that is not
today.
it though. But that is not
Well,
it though. You see,
well,
that is the problem.
we can agree to disagree.
But you want me to tell you the reason why that is not it?
Um, you can do it without including white people here.
You already started it, so you've already said other people do
Well,
it and better their own people.
well,
So you open that door.
this is not Africa
You can't do it
versus.
and say I should not do it when it suits you. Okay, let's be fair.
Were you here from the beginning?
See, let me explain the way the world works because you don't seem to understand it. All elites are corrupt.
Okay, I'm
They
not talking
acquire
about all. I'm talking about
Nigerian African
Africa.
elites are corrupt too.
Mm.
What the things that they do is that they take the money and they put it in tax havens. And the tax
And
havens that they put them, most of them don't get it back at all.
okay,
And that is the biggest evil that is happening to the continent.
all right. So you've confirmed exactly what I'm saying. So if you are taking money from your own people, like I explained, like Mansa Musa, the Pan Africanists like to say, the richest man. Okay, he had slaves, enslaved his people. They mined gold. He took the gold. He went on his way to pilgrimage. He gave so much of the gold in Egypt and in the Arab world, right? It didn't belong to him. Today the people of Mali is among the poorest countries in the world. It didn't translate. Gold doesn't just disappear. Some places have golds from thousands of years ago. They are still benefiting. So if you take your country's wealth that belongs to everyone just for yourself, and then you parlay it, elsewhere, that in itself is a problem. So the question here is, what is with the Africans' mindset, the Africans' mentality that the African is self-destructive? It's like there's a button they push. It's like the self-destruct button. That's what they push. They can see that their people are poor. They spend money on the military, and this military is not there to help the people or defend other people. It's there to defend them against the people. So if you look around Africa, you talk to many Africans, they will tell you what I'm saying here, that corruption is a big problem. So you can talk about tax havens, but if you didn't take your country's money and put it in those quote unquote tax havens, you know, we wouldn't even be talking about, oh, they didn't get it back. If you're not corrupt, if you're honest, you want to build, you wouldn't do that to begin with. You would have used that money in your country and not subjugate your people, right?
See, because the world is that
And what
you have to ask yourself what
l-
created those tax
let me
havens?
tell you
Did they
something.
belong
I'll
to the
go
Okay.
right
country?
now to that.
Tunaya, hold on.
And what
Tunaya, let's allow Diego, since he's in Africa,
yeah,
let's allow him to talk about
let
this,
me tell you something.
because
And
go
let
ahead,
me we
Diego.
shouldn't even take this thing of we shouldn't take this issue of putting money in tax haven lightly, because the money they're putting, your money is being put on a tax haven, and that tax haven, that bank that they put can issue credit now because they have a large savings. This is how the
Right.
system uses works. Now, if these presidents at least kept the money here in their countries, the money will be the bank will be able to issue credit to
But
the
they
people
can't keep
because
it
they
there.
will have
They
enough
stole
savings.
it.
Exactly. And this is why I'm telling you, we can't say that they put on tax havens and make it seem like a light thing. It's a serious thing. You see, and
Hmm.
another thing is African Africans need to understand that there are smart people, there are strong people, there are weak people, there are dumb people. You see, smart people, need to lead. This is just the truth. Smart and strong people need to lead. So what the government needs to do, they needs to identify these people and subsidize certain businesses that they get into. You see, so subsidize people who own mine manufacturers. The government needs to subsidize with the taxpayers' money so that they are able to have the resources. Then they can shift those resources to people
But
who actually can convert those resources into something.
but Diego, would you agree with me that most Africans have a self-destructive mindset? That's the reason why Africa is the way it is today. Would you agree with that?
Completely. You can just see amongst Africans what they get gathering groups for. They never gathering groups for the most part to have productive conversations. It's always
Right.
gossiping and things. So it's
Hmm.
they're self-destructive. They're self-destructive, and you don't need to be smart to see it.
Hmm. And do you think, for somebody to, for instance, how can anyone defend the Africans' corrupt mindset? Like, how is that even possible?
See, we are just the way you talk sometimes. You come across as if you just want to say Africans are bad, Africans are bad, and Africans are bad.
That's your interpretation.
But that's what you keep doing every day.
Well, uh,
You just come and say
the,
Africans are bad, Africans are bad. What you don't understand is they are doing what they understand to work best. They don't know any other way now. Because all
well,
the people that are doing it are getting away with it.
mm, who are those people?
Are they not the ones that are supposed to hold the people accountable that are carrying out corruption, making sure that they answer for it? But no,
What
those people get away with it because
what society did those quote unquote leaders? What
but
society did they come from? Who raised them?
eh, when they try to do those things, most of the time, often the leaders are out of their reach. Like you said, they have a military and they are getting weapons from the
Yeah,
people that are
but
backing them.
but
So it's
but
not that
the
straightforward.
mindset, what I'm saying, right? Like I said, because you want to argue and try to say I'm saying Africans are bad. That's your interpretation. If someone is clearly subjugating their people, um, putting them in the worst condition possible, I can't say that's a good thing, but that comes from a mindset because leader after leader is repeating the same thing. If you're smart and you don't think that way, they would eliminate you. So, therefore, that culture breeds this type of behavior. So, for you to say that I can't speak on that because you must realize it is not every African that agree with this. Obviously, you could see Diego. Diego agrees with me. Many people agree with me because we are honest about what we are saying. It is not other people that are holding Africans back. God is not going to come from wherever and do for Africans. It's giving Africans, what God has given to everyone else. It's giving Africans brain, eyes, resources. Why can't the Africans use it? Why can't they use it instead of trying to outsource it to other people? It is the Africans that are destroying Africa. The amount of billions that Mobutu Sese Seko took out of Congo, it could have changed many, many lives in the Congo. The amount of billions that Sani Abacha stole from Nigeria, it could have changed many, many people's life in Nigeria. In fact, the people that are in the Delta region where the oil is, look at how those people are living. Where is all the wealth? One individual, 10 billion. You go to Angola, Equatorial Guinea, Gambia. You can name places upon places. And
Okay.
all you
Mm.
see, it is the African destruction. They're not building roads. They are not building hospitals. They are not building schools. They are not doing anything productive. All they are engaging is
You,
destruction.
you
I
know,
think
I want to say something too. Um, Many of these Pan-Africanists as well will get on African players who play football in Europe for big contracts, for millions upon millions of pounds, euros, or whatever the case may be. But those same players are actually the ones building things back in Africa, building
Right.
clinics,
Right.
building schools, and things like that. So you mean to tell me you're calling them sellouts for doing what's best for them and also what's best for literally a village because they know that the government is not going to do that, what they're doing. They understand this. So this is why I just have to say that, like, we leave Africa for a reason. You know,
Right.
it's not really for holidays.
It's like the
It's out
corruption
of
is
necessity.
everywhere. It's everywhere. From the
okay. Can I
policeman,
say something?
from the
You just finished
policeman,
talking. He talked, and you go back and talk again. Let me just say
from
something.
the well,
Since
I'm the
I'm the only one
host.
on the
Hold
other
on, hold
side,
on,
you can't have
hold
three
on.
people saying the
To
same thing,
Niger.
and only one
Wait,
person has to say one thing. If you want
to
to talk to
Niger.
yourself, I can
Wait.
leave.
To Niger. Hold on. You gotta allow the host to speak. Hold on. You know, basic necessities. You know, you have corrupt people there who, by the way, they don't have access to this tax haven. A policeman, for them to do their job, you gotta give them something. You go to the healthcare system in most of these countries, you gotta give them something for them to do their job. You go to the immigration, you gotta give them something. You want to travel through borders, you gotta give them something. We're seeing this. These people, they don't have access to this quote unquote tax haven. You know, how can anyone see this as something good? I don't understand. Go ahead, to Niger.
Yeah, I think what we have realized in my time is that human beings are very similar. Societies always have pressure valves and know how to let them out accordingly. Whatever you are seeing is a manifestation of that societal norms, and it's because of the condition they find themselves. Or every society, you know, there are countries that used to be known to be poor in other parts of the world. So I would say this for Africans: whatever they are doing right now, where the evil is coming from is the fact that the funds are leaving the continent. That is where the damage is happening. And we have come to live in a sub kind of economy that is completely devoid from what the normal standard economies of the world are like.
How are those funds leaving Africa?
They are being sent overseas because of structures that were put in place during the end of the
Oh,
colonization
so
period.
it is not corrupt individuals. So do you think Sani Abacha was corrupt?
Sani Abacha was corrupt, of course.
Okay, so you talk about colonialists. Was it white colonialists that told Sani Abacha, told him to be corrupt?
See, if you want to understand a little bit of slider of how this world structure is works, maybe you should
No,
watch
to Niger,
go and watch
to
if
Niger,
it's a
to,
program on YouTube here. They call it the Spider's Web. It's
to
called
Niger. Okay,
Tain's
to Niger,
Second Empire. So
to
you
Niger.
can understand what is going on.
Okay, okay. For instance, Mansa Musa didn't have any connection with white people. Was it white people, colonialists, that were there to make him be corrupt?
He wasn't corrupt, he was a king.
Oh, okay. So Sani Abacha was a president. Then we could say he's the equivalent of a king.
Because even he this failed the policies that he wrote on paper. He was not supposed to
Uh,
do what he did. So
so you think do you think name today anything like, because they said he was the richest man, right? He's
Mansa
from
Musa, yeah,
he's from Mali, right?
yeah.
What is Mali's position today?
See, Mali lost a war, and we all know the story of how that happened. So let's not pretend as if all these things just happen.
To Niger.
It's
I'm
not.
getting to Niger. It's actually sometimes I wonder, if
I don't know why you are believing all this crap that you
I
are
don't
saying.
know,
I really don't know how you can
to
believe it.
Niger.
Let me tell you something.
What is the condition of African countries?
See,
Sometimes I wonder if you, to Niger, you are sent to derail African conversations, to wake Africans up, to change their mentality, because some of the things you try to, like, you literally came here, you literally try to defend corruption, you try to
no.
mince that's what, but what are you here to
I,
argue about?
what
I
I'm
don't get
saying,
it.
what I'm saying here is exactly what I said yesterday. You come here every day, you put a title to make Nigeria Africans look bad. That is exactly what your objective is.
So
The
to
topic,
Niger.
whatever you say, that is irrelevant. You say we are inherently corrupt, we are inherently this way, but you are not taking the context into account.
Is that what?
You are literally, yeah, that's what you are saying. You are saying our people are corrupt. That's exactly what you are saying.
But you haven't proven me wrong here, though.
But I'm explaining the situation why
You
it is like
haven't.
that.
Well, you haven't proven me wrong.
I'm not here to prove you wrong. I did acknowledge that they are corrupt. Did I not say that?
Then that's case closed. Then no, nothing further. Then if
they are
cannot,
not the most corrupt.
Look,
because they are all corrupt. Okay, let me put it this way.
As an African, wait a minute. Let me finish. As an African,
it's a simple question.
Wait
I
a
want to ask
minute.
you.
Wait
It's
a
a simple
minute.
question. Let me just make my point. If two people are criminals and one of them is the ringleader, would you say one of them, the two of them are just the same? No, you say the one that is the ringleader is the bigger criminal. That's how it works. You can't just say, oh, because Africans are the petty, these corrupt people, they are the most corrupt people on earth. They are corrupt because they are stupid poor.
So to Niger, you again, like I said, I don't know the tick for tat that you're doing, but Nigerian people, the majority are suffering. They don't have the amenities or the life that, for instance, let's say people in America have. So to try to point any fingers at places like that is silly at best. It's really stupid. Seriously, if you ask me, a Nigerian cannot walk into the hospital. If they don't have money, they're not going to get treatment. That doesn't happen in America. It doesn't happen. You don't have to pay a nurse or a doctor to see you. You don't have to worry about no roads. You don't have to worry about food and all that. So for you to come and try to,
have you asked yourself how the people that live in those rich politicians' properties? Do you have you asked yourself all those rich Africans that you're talking about? Have you asked yourself all the people that live with them how they are doing? They are all doing well, isn't it? The people that they employ, the people that are around them are doing well. That is how America is compared to Africa.
That's not
and that is what you don't understand.
You've never lived in America, so you don't know what you're talking about. I live here. Don't tell me about America.
I'm telling you that
I live here. Because well, that's not America. Because you've even there are times you talk about America and you use a lot of offensive words. You don't even realize that in America those are offensive. Like you would refer to the Indians as red Indian. Those are very offensive terms. But because you want to pretend like you know America so much, you say things you don't even realize what you're talking about. And for me, that's why I would never pretend that I know the UK. I would never, because that's arrogance at best. And when you're arrogant, you're going to be saying things that are offensive, but because you think you know everything, while you insulting a group of people, you don't even know
anybody.
But that's offensive. I'm just bringing, because I've heard you even, for example, you've said that that's a very offensive term
Indians,
in America.
That's what I grew
right?
up. That's what they call them. It wasn't a pejorative term.
But you see, again, that's why you should listen to people, especially if they are talking about a place where they are at. That's why you should listen to them instead of pretending to know things that you don't know. I'm just blown by how you could literally try to twist this again, you know, where nobody here is saying, oh, the African, you know, these corrupt Africans, you know, it's not their fault that they are corrupt. Like these people are literally killing the progress of these countries. They, you know, because if you taking money from your people, you're taking the money from your people and they are starving. You know, that's a problem. Nobody made you do this. It's just your inherent corruption that's in you. That's just what it is. Nothing else.
You don't seem to
What else
understand
could
how
it be?
systems work at all. You don't understand how
Okay.
systems work.
Well, thank you, to Niger. Diego, go ahead. Diego, what do you think about what Two Niger is
He
trying
didn't
to
want to
argue
say
here?
anything. You are just scared. You don't want to hear this.
What
He
would
didn't
I
say
be?
anything. Diego doesn't want to say anything. Let me finish with you.
Hold on. Allow him to talk, to Niger. Diego, go ahead.
Allow him to talk. Wait. Now, I just heard tonight just saying the people in Africa are corrupt because they are poor. No. That's a complete lie, my friend. I can show you in Africa, in every department of the governmental affairs, from the taxpayers post to everything, people are corrupt there, but they're not poor. They drive fancy cars that they got through the corruption. So the African is not corrupt because he's poor. No. That's not the issue. He's a corrupt person because he doesn't like to think that much. So he always look for the easier way out. This is what you're not understanding.
See, okay, you know what? Let me qualify that statement. I think that you have a point there that it's not necessarily because of the corruption, it's because the people that are corrupt have not been put to this in made to account for it. If you have a system where people are not accountable for being corrupt, then you are going to encourage corruption.
But doesn't that mean the culture? If you yourself answered it, so if there's no accountability, that's a cultural issue.
Okay,
that's a cultural issue.
Can you stop there? Let me
period. Because if there is, first of all, if there is no, wait a minute. You just told us there's no accountability. You obviously, you know, you just wanting to hear what you want to hear, you know, or ignoring the facts. That's a cultural thing. If people are not, you know, stepping up, truly putting things in place, when they are seeing corrupt leader after corrupt leader, corrupt people are bringing their family members to be in charge, to be richer than the rest of the people, and you somehow don't see that as a problem. I'm worried about, you know, like truly, like your the way you think. This is dangerous for Africans.
See, you see what I think? The way I think is that I know that Africans will alter their behavior when they are in the right situation. And let me finish my point, please, before you interrupt me, please. The American state itself is 0.000.
Let's not talk about America.
I knew you were going to interrupt me. I knew you were going to interrupt me.
Because you don't live here. I'm not.
America.
No,
you want to badmouth Africa. You don't want to compare your great America
you've never been to America. My thing is,
you see him.
Do not talk about it.
So
you can do that in another channel.
That is
this is not about America.
It's not even a discussion. Then.
It's not about America.
You
talk
are
about
trying
Africa.
to badmouth Africans. This is very revealing. You are trying to badmouth Africans because you don't want to hear the truth.
Talk about Africa, not America.
You see,
this topic is about Africa.
Just now you said. You talked about red Indians. You talked about all native Indians.
No, because I'm reminding you.
But when it suits you, but you are trying to shut down the conversation because you have an agenda to come here every day and talk badly about Africans and spew it bad. Look at that. Look at that title. Africa, the most corrupt continent or so. That is the title.
Mm-hmm.
You are here promoting and poisoning the African continent with your message. And you don't want anybody to call you out. I'm trying to tell you that 0.01% of Americans own as much wealth as 50% of the whole country.
I live here, so
what is that?
I you know,
Yes,
I live
it's a
here.
fact. Check
First
it
of
on,
all,
search it on your
Tunaya,
Google. You have
again,
internet right there. Search it on your
yeah.
Google and
Well,
find
you
it.
know,
It's not hidden.
the difference between you and I is you have to go Google about America. I live here. But this topic, again, I told you, you got to stick with the topic. This is not about America. This is about
Oh, come on.
This is about the corrupt countries in Africa. You know, you have places like, for instance, Equatorial Guinea, 2 million. They have oil, you know, but they
What
have one of
African
the
comes
most,
up with that type of topic?
you know.
If CNN did that, the whole we Africans will be protesting. You are the one doing it.
Oh, really? So you have a
Oh, come
problem
on.
with the truth? Is that what this is?
No, we don't have any problem with the
Then
truth.
what is it?
We just have problem with people that go about propagating information to say our people are inherently evil and incapable of thinking for themselves. This is what you are saying. Because you act as if what is going on in the US is different from what is going on in Africa. It's not different.
So wait a minute.
I'm trying to highlight it to you and you're trying to shut it down.
So, Tunaya, me as an African, right? As an African, you agree that I'm an African, right?
Of course you're an African.
Just like you. So,
see, you may be born
wait
an
a minute.
African, but you are doing exactly what you are saying those leaders are doing.
Wait a minute. Really?
Yes.
Who have I stolen from?
You are trying to destroy your continent by saying some of all these things you are saying. You're not trying to heal. So you are trying to say, look at the title itself. The title tells you everything you need to know.
So, Tunaya, let me ask you, allow me to speak here. So, I'm an African just like you. Why are you triggered by another African's assessment of what they know to be true about Africa? Like, why are you triggered about it? You can, you know, if you want to promote corruption, we know where you stand. Just make that known. But do not tell me saying I'm like those people. I haven't stolen from anybody. I work hard for everything that I have. I haven't stolen from anyone. So for you to make that statement is rather silly. It doesn't make
because you are not stealing from anyone. You come up with a topic like that. If CNN did this topic,
I'm not CNN. I am more trusted than CNN. There's a difference here. I am more trusted. I am more trusted than CNN.
But you are here saying that we should not compare our own to other countries, but yet you are happy to say our people are bad, but you're not able to say, okay, yeah, how can you say your people are bad when you cannot? How do you know what color is if you can't differentiate?
Oh, it's about color.
If you see only white, it's about color. If you have only white color in this world, how can you differentiate? How do you know what is bad if you cannot have any comparison?
Okay, well, this is about Africa. If you don't want to talk about Africa, you know, I'll have to take you off the panel. This is about Africa. You know, we're not talking about America or China.
If you want to take me off the panel, you can. It's your channel. Well, but I can tell you right now, if you want to compare, if you want to talk about people being bad, you have to say what standard are you using to judge it.
Tunaya, you don't need to yell, scream.
Okay, I don't know what I'm raising. Sorry if I'm screaming.
Well, you are over here getting all animated and, you know, everything. Just relax, calm down. We're having a nice conversation here. You are not more African than any of us here. Okay? So you need to calm down. You know, you don't need to tell us, you know, to say compared to other places. We've seen other places, you know, and we've lived in Africa. We know exactly what is going on. So it's silly to try to compare, you know, those countries to first world countries. This doesn't make any sense. I've already outlined the problems here. You yourself, you're in a Western country, you know, to benefit from that.
Don't you know that inherently when you say Africa is corrupt, you're already comparing it? Don't you even get that? Well, what other system are you using to compare is corruption?
Hold on. I'll put you backstage for a minute so you can calm down. Okay. Madara, welcome to the show.
Hello, Afridamas. How are you doing, mister?
I'm doing well. Thank you for joining us. What do you think about, you know, the corruption in Africa?
The corruption in Africa is really, really very, trifling, but of course we are aware that the corruption is being helped and funded and being pushed forward from those above as well. But it's just human nature. Human beings seek each other to corrupt each other, isn't it? So human beings can corrupt each other as well when they have when they have the power. Don't you think so, Afridamas? That I know the corruption is human nature, but like I say, it's human nature as well to corrupt one another.
So, do you think these countries, right? They have resources, they make money, right? The conditions that their people are in, terrible schools, terrible healthcare, terrible infrastructure, and you would see few people at the top with billions ripping off everyone.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You cannot compare the life and resources of people generally in African countries to other places. Don't you think that's a huge problem? Why, because the other people you want to talk about, we see what their countries look like.
Right. I see what you're saying. You're completely right there. I tend to compare them in a way as in say they are modern day slave traders if slavery was going on. They are modern day slave traders.
Who are
You
the
understand
modern?
what I mean?
Yes. Who are the modern?
These
Who are you
presidents,
referring?
these presidents, some
Okay.
of them that participate in this are modern day slave traders.
And you agree?
I agree to an extent. I agree to an extent that
is
they're modern
bad,
day.
right?
Yeah, I agree to an extent that they are modern day slave traders. They are modern day slave traders, just like how slavery was influenced by the powers from outside. So you have to consider the external aspects that influence these people to make the choices that they make.
So
The
wait a
external
minute.
influences. You have to put that into perspective as well.
So you think, these leaders, stealing their country's resources and keeping it for themselves, right?
Mm.
It is other people from outside telling them, hey, steal the people's money, make them suffer, don't build roads for them, don't build hospitals, don't do anything. Just do, you and your families and your inner circle. It is other people making them do this. Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm just saying it's sometimes because of the external influences, they are left with those choices alone to make, where they have
But
to
what is
think
it?
individually.
So
They have
what
to
is it
think very
about?
individually because the external influences forces them to kind of come into that conclusion where I can't think to help the rest of my people because the minute I move this type of way, so they are left with those choices alone where they have to think individually.
Like, do you help your family members?
Most definitely.
Okay, can somebody from outside you're not related to, can they convince you not to do that?
Can somebody outside it depends on the choices that's what I mean, that it depends on the
No,
choices
wait a minute.
and
Wait a
it depends on
minute.
the choices that you have to make.
Okay.
It depends on the paradigm you live in.
Do you have a job?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can somebody from outside convince you to steal from your job?
Can somebody from outside convince me to steal from my job? Not at the moment, unless they put a gun on my head on and they put so many other conditions that will force me to do that.
Okay, so if you are in charge, like these African countries, they have the military. In fact, the weapons they buy is to surround themselves so that the people cannot get to them, so they can continue stealing. How can you say anything about outside forces?
Right. So here's the thing. If they're not killed by the people because of the people, they will definitely be removed from the position of privilege and power by the outside influences, because the outside influences still have enough influence to influence the people.
So,
we've seen it many times happen in the Middle East,
I get
where
it.
revolutions have been hijacked.
Well, what I'm saying is, we're talking about African corruption here. You talked about outside influence. So no one can.
I think it's a legitimate concern to have to put into perspective the outside influence. I think it's legitimate to put that into perspective because it can't just be only internal, because it's also external, the situation with Africa. I think it's legitimate to put that.
No. If you are stealing, you cannot blame any other person for that, because you do realize we see other African countries in that continent, same blacks, because this is not like throughout Africa. Some places got it right. Some of the smaller countries, they got it right. They are doing the right thing. They don't have people stealing like in most of Africa. They got it right. So this external thing is just an excuse.
My perspective, I want to understand from you, what are you trying to get at exactly? Because I really want to hear what you really have to say as to the reason why you think Africans are peculiar, different from the rest of the world in this type of way.
It's inherent, because if you live in African society, you would clearly see that corruption seems to be, it's like it's not a big deal. People just, they just do it.
Considering that we were raised to be collective, considering although we are individual in nature, our societies are meant to be very collective. So I don't see a reason why corruption will be so much of an issue back then. I think the external forces kind of created that dynamic for the corruption to.
So you're saying the African is not smart enough to.
No, it's nothing to do with smart. It's nothing to do with smart.
So wait a minute. So are you trying to make the argument that it is external forces putting pressure on these thieves to steal? Is that?
Yeah, I think the pressures that have to play, we have to consider all of them.
wait.
I think all the pressures have to do with it, and including the external pressure.
Wait. So, so external forces are forcing them to, oppress their people, steal all their money. It's people forcing them to do this. That's what I'm hearing, huh?
No, external forces are leaving them with a choice to live a life of individuality where they do not necessarily care about the rest of their people.
Okay.
You know
what?
Yeah.
Thank you. I heard.
No.
I heard your point. Thank you.
You don't have to turn up. Look, listen. Leave it be. I'm ready to discuss with you. I'm ready to discuss.
No, I heard you. You've given your point. I'll take that into consideration.
So what have you got to say in regards to my point then?
I already said it. I don't believe that, anyone can make you, steal, especially you're in power. You have the military, like this is not just one place. We're seeing it across the board, east, west, south, north, central. It's just everywhere. You go into African countries, you're dealing, police, immigration, hospitals, people. It's like corruption everywhere.
Yeah.
So, if you believe it is other people making them do this,
you believe corruption is natural to human beings and it's normal, and Africans have that, right? Don't you believe it's also natural that human beings could be also could do some good once in a while? But why doesn't it happen? Don't you believe in the good of human beings once in a while?
What do you mean?
Like, do you only believe Africans are only capable of corruption, or African leaders are not capable of anything good in their countries?
As far as we've seen so far, I mean, I'm pretty, the word.
I mean, you said it before that there's some leaders that there's some leaders that do good.
Well, obviously the capability, right? They have the resources, but they are keeping it for themselves. So the capability to do good, they already got that.
I think Afrodamus, you raise a good point. You raise a good point. Honestly, like in terms of honest discussion, you raise a good point. But in really and truly, I think you try to nitpick and you kind of negate all the other pressure points that cause this situation to happen. So I think the external force and influence is legitimate concern to have as well. So I think you can't push that away. I think it's very legitimate.
Hey, that's a convenient excuse. Hey, the
It's-
external. You know what? People rob banks all the time, and they always say, "Hey, it is poverty, external things that made me do it." So I get it. Okay, I get it. That's I got your point. That's great.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right,
Thank you.
Abdabus.
Thank you for
All right
coming.
then.
Thank you. All right, we're almost at the end of the show. I'm gonna bring in two Niger and full of sport. Go ahead, give me your closing statement. I'll bring in two Niger also to give his closing statement, as long as he sticks with the topic.
Thank you for having me again. And all I have to say is that, like, at the end of the day, like all African, we have to look in the mirror and ask ourselves, hey, are we our worst enemies? Are we the ones causing our mishaps the most? Are we not taking responsibility into our hands to like change our lot? Because I mean, that's what it comes down to. Like, in order to be respected, you have to like you have to give person a reason to respect you. And so when you have like Africans who do certain things and are a certain way, then of course the whole world is not going to respect you.
This
You
is
know what I
correct.
mean? Yep.
This is correct. You've said it best.
Yep.
Thanks for coming again, Full of Sport. You're always welcome here.
Thank you for having me.
No
Appreciate it.
problem. Thank you. All right, two Niger, give your closing statement. Two Niger, unmute yourself.
Yeah, I was just busy replying to somebody. So yeah, I think you have done your own thing here, where you kicked me out because I was trying to challenge your whole idea of trying to badmouth your own continent. But it is what it is, and
Is it facts or bad mouthing? Two Niger, like even
there is a
people are
slim
writing.
line.
Two
See, okay.
Niger, two Niger
Mm-hmm.
in America, right? Because you like to talk about America, for example. People are not living on $1.50 a day. That's not what's happening in America. So you can say, like, that's why I don't want you to go into this, because it's rather silly to compare this. And you trying to ignore the fact that I live in America. I've been living in America for years, many, many years, most of my life, in fact. So I know the difference. So to try to come here and like you gave example of prisons. I've seen even in the prison what people have in the prisoners have. Most free people in these countries don't have that. So let's not even go there. I don't want to discuss that, because that would just water down my topic. This is why I
You are
want us
not.
to
You are.
speak.
I think I'm listening to you, but you are not
Yeah.
listening to me. That's the
Well,
problem.
give your last statement, because I've been here quite some time and I'm
The moment
beginning
I
to get
say
hungry.
within,
So
you
I
see
can
that
go
this for example, I mean, you don't let me talk.
Some of my American food.
You don't let me talk. I think you are going from your feelings now,
Oh,
because
sure.
see, because before I make let me
Yeah.
talk. Then I appreciate it if you can let me talk without in this thing, because I'm going to acknowledge some of the things you said too. The
No,
things you
but
are
make it
saying.
quick. You
Okay,
got
you're trying
like
to rush. How many
you got
seconds?
1.5 minutes. I even
Okay,
increase
good.
it.
Okay, thank you. I will just let me just take that on board right now. All right, so I've got 1.5 minutes. All right, so start. So first of all, I'm not saying that we are not corrupt. I'm saying that we are corrupt, but there is a big but there. Everywhere is also corrupt. The only reason, let me finish. You don't. I know you have an instinct to just jump in. The
Just
reason
talk.
why, the reason
Did I
why, okay, good.
just
I'm
keep
glad you
talking?
did that. So,
You have
because
the
I'm so used
floor.
to it now. So,
You got the
the
floor.
reason, see, in Africa, the poor people, the rich people in Africa, they invest money in the people that are around them. Their drivers and all those in their family members. You see the money spread around the people close to them. the wealth in the West is so great that it's easy to miss the fact that the amount they actually invest in the people is relatively small compared to what they actually give out to the people. And remember, because of proximity to power, if they don't do what those people, if they don't make those people satiated, they are going to have serious issues. Then they're going to lose control of everything else. This is why they even invest as much as they have with their people around there. Let me give you an evidence for this. If you go back in time, you'll find out that these people, the way they treated their people, they have serfs. They treated their people very, very badly. You have to understand that this house
Let's talk
system, the
2021.
whole world is corrupt.
2021.
The whole world is corrupt. China is corrupt. US is corrupt.
Tunaja, I
UK is
told you,
corrupt.
Tunaja, I said, let's talk about Africa. Here we go. You're
Okay,
trying to bring in places that are better than Africa. Please stick with Africa so we can help Africans improve.
Okay. If
Okay?
you want Africa
You
to
want to, the thing is, you're sitting here, saying all this, people in Africa would totally disagree with you.
if you
They're
want Africa to,
they're the ones living on barely $2 a day. So don't even try to say all this stuff. Just finish your
okay. The
your
Africans know this. The Africans know this. They've known this for the last 60 years and it hasn't changed. Why? It's not because it's inherent. They hate it. Our Africans hate corruption. They hate it and they hate it and they hate it, and yet it still doesn't go. The problem doesn't go away. Why? Because you are diagnosing the wrong thing. If you can diagnose any, if somebody's got cancer, I diagnose heart attack, you're just wasting your time. You can bang your head against the wall, you're not going to get anywhere. So the issue is about wealth. If you want wealth, you have to do what it takes to get wealth. If you have wealth, you can protect it and you can disperse it among your people like the other people do. And then that is how you can get to a situation whereby Afridemos is not going to feel so angry or feel so entitled to come online and call our people corrupt. Okay, thank you. You gave me one time, so I appreciate that.
Hey, Tunaja, thank you for coming as usual. You're welcome here anytime. As you know, the most trusted news source on this side of heaven, making sure that the truth is out, just speaking it as it is. I'm here to help elevate and awaken the positive side of the African mind so that, this corruption, this culture of corruption would finally come to a complete, like even if we don't completely eradicate it, but if over 60% of the population can be uplifted to a point where people don't need to, siphon the wealth, from their own people, then I'm happy. Like it wouldn't be good for me to come here having the microphone and telling people just what they want to hear. There's a reason why, like someone like you would get triggered. We have the African Fang tribe here, the queen of the fish market is over here getting triggered. But at the end of the day, someday you would see why I talk about these things, because I'm trying to help people. People don't have to like it, but I'm trying to help them. Seriously. And the fact of the matter is, they don't have to like what I'm saying. I get it. You see, Jesus Christ, if he cared about what people gotta say, it wouldn't happen today.
Okay.
But thank you for coming, and
Don't
you're
worry.
welcome.
I think somebody has a point. Maybe one day, if you have the balls, you can face me one on one, and then I
Oh
will.
yeah, Tunaja, you
I
can.
think we've done that
Here we
actually.
go.
We've done that quite a lot,
Yeah,
isn't it?
yeah.
We've done
You've
quite a lot.
come. We've done one-on-ones every single time. I run circles around you.
Oh
It's
yeah!
happened. It's happened
Wow!
over and over. We have Josie Gold here. Tunaja, don't run yet. I want Josie Gold to say. We have
I've
few
been taking
minutes.
a beating from on top of you, punching you. While I was knocking you down, I was crying from above.
Yeah,
See, you never got me. You know
yeah,
that.
yeah. You know what? Let's allow Josie Gold to say it. I got a few minutes. Josie Gold, go ahead.
Yeah, I wanted to agree with everything you were saying about corruption. It really is
Thank you.
killing the African continent. Like, kills a lot of services, They make sure that things are never really done. So even if gains were made, they kind of reversed over time. It just destroys the continent on most countries on the continent. So that's something that has to be taken care. I'm not sure how it can happen. Everyone has ideas, but that's something that really has to be worked on, as in yesterday. So yeah, that's all I wanted to say.
Thank you very much, Josie Gold. And Josie Gold, you've seen, I've laid the evidence out to show what is really killing, Africa. I'm pretty sure two Nigerians just disagreeing just for the sake of it. He loves disagreeing with me, but I know deep down he agrees. He knows I'm speaking facts
Wow.
here. So,
I
but thank
already
you for
agree
coming.
with you.
He's delusional.
Come on, I already agree with you. Come on, Josie, you have to look at that title. That title is going to pick up a lot of people that will see this video will not even watch it, but they'll see that title, and that's the message. If you keep giving your own people a bad name when you claim you're trying to heal them, how
To
you are doing,
Niger,
you
we
are doing
already
just as
have a
much
bad
damage
name.
as you are trying to heal. Yeah, but you
Africans
are
already have a
increasing
bad
it.
name to Niger.
No, not all of them do. Not
There's
on
not.
everything.
We're so low. There's nothing we can increase. That's how low Africa is.
Thank you, Josie. This is what I like. This, people like Josie,
Josie Gold.
they are really looking at the bigger picture. It's like Africans are the people. They say, "Oh, I'm hiding," when you're half naked. Everyone sees what is going on. So let's not even.
You see what kills me about this is that I am a living proof that Nigeria itself is not as corrupt as people think. I have
Oh,
my
Tunaya,
items.
I already said it. Tunaya,
Mm-hmm.
you missed on that. I said that here. I
That what?
said Nigeria. In fact, Nigeria is in the green because when you go look at the corruption index, I said that. I said people probably might think Nigeria is that corrupt, but Nigeria is in the green, meaning Nigeria is headed in the right direction. They are fighting corruption. I already said that here.
Okay,
So
but
so
because
so so the
I'm
fact
saying
is,
it because I'm experiencing it right now that my items were seized. That you find somebody to help you out, they don't want to help you out. Even top military brasses were like, "Oh, I'm not touching that one. You need to go higher up." Literally, I may have to find my way to try to talk to the president himself before he can get anything done.
yeah.
There's
But
people
I
that are so
already
scared
said
to
it.
move.
I already talked about the way people probably even think about Nigeria. So this is why, like I tell you, the Afridamus report is here
But
to
that is African, African,
bring
you
the
said there
truth.
though. It's
To
African.
bring
It's not. See, this is the thing you are not missing. I'm telling you, what the way you come across is like you are bad mouthing the continent, the people. You didn't specify any specific thing. And to be fair, I've said this yesterday too. You have to watch the kind of way you are using these things because words matter. Words
well,
matter.
to Niger. Unfortunately, you want to be the ward police, but that's not how it works.
Okay, I
The
don't want to be what
Afridamus report,
police.
it is the most trusted news source on this side of heaven. I'm gonna continue doing what I'm doing. You see, Josie Gold came here. He didn't disagree with what I'm saying. The only people that try to disagree is you and that fish market queen. The African
I
fan.
was where you were about 20 years ago.
Oh,
If you
Jesus.
understand the world more,
Mm.
you will know, understand this is. See, I'm not disagreeing with you in terms of there is corruption, but I'm trying to let you understand that if you fix the things that are going wrong in the continent, that corruption will go away. Because
That's
if
what I'm doing here.
not by telling them that they are corrupt, talk about the
Oh,
solutions to it.
you gotta call a spade a spade.
Corruption is just a symptom. I told you, our people hate corruption.
No, they don't.
Oh my God,
They
that's what
don't.
that's why you miss the whole point about people. You
If
don't
they don't, if
understand
they
them.
don't, if they don't hate it, they wouldn't be doing it.
Why do you think they hate their leaders then?
Because
They
they
hate
just
their
have,
leaders because they hate to see corruption.
well, they need a voice. That's where I come into play. They don't have freedom
See,
of speech.
I've seen Nigerians. You need to see some way some Nigerians talk about corruption. The passion that
Well,
they have against that thing.
well, I'm here to help them.
What
I'm
I
here
try
to.
to tell them is that you have to solve the problems around it because human beings, you can say whatever you like. You keep diagnosing the wrong thing, You're just going to waste time. We've known this for 40, 50 years.
Yeah.
Why do you think we are still where we are?
Well, because you want to come here and hate on white people again.
No.
That's why I didn't allow that.
I don't hate white people. Why would you say I hate white people? Stop that. Come on.
Everyone
Why would I
that
hate white
watches.
people?
Oh,
I'm a humanist.
well, sure. Well, you know, everyone here is to Niger. They want to see the one-on-one between you and I. Maybe people have missed it. I have plenty of one-on-ones with Niger.
I think they are feeling sorry for you. They want to give you a chance to come back. You know. All
Don't worry. Maybe tomorrow's topic would make you happy. Okay, I'm gonna do another African topic. It would just be perfect.
Wow. You see, when I deal with you so much, you know what Afridi must start talking about? The devil is your daddy. He will start preaching. He goes into a totally different realm.
Oh, definitely. The devil is this this fish market queen's daddy. That's for sure. Everyone knows that.
I think you can say whatever you like. I think the point I'm making is quite important. I really don't feel like we need more people telling us, because as a Nigerian, I've seen how people call us
wait a minute.
all the time, and that really infuriates me, because they miss the point about Nigerians.
But to Niger, this is not about Nigeria. I've named several countries, even countries that are secluded, like North Korea, the North Korea of Africa, Equatorial Guinea. I've talked about all of them. So I'm very fair. I'm not here picking on anyone. I'm just here to lay it out. And again, hold on. Another thing to Niger. You know, name an African news source that is telling the truth, like the Afridamos report. It's not here. All of you are over there, you know, kumbayan, you know, you guys are talking about things that don't make sense, you know. So
they're talking about solutions, the actual solution that I've been talking about that will actually resolve the corruption.
Well, good.
We're all on the same page. You want to get rid of corruption. We want to get rid of it, but we are just diagnosing it, we believe, more accurately.
But then why are you upset at me for doing my job?
Okay, that's a very good question, because I, as a Nigerian, have lived through decades of people saying how corrupt Nigerians are, but they miss the point about the intelligence, the ambition, the hard working, and the outperforming of many groups, even in the US. And nobody says that, because they only focus, because some people just go out with a megaphone and say, we are corrupt, and I don't like us, our own people, doing it for them too.
This is not about Nigeria, though. This is about Africa as a whole.
Oh, because Nigeria is not African too, and I don't want any African to be subjected to that too.
What? So you just want people to tell sweet things about Nigeria?
No, solve the problems. Don't keep because what I've known is that telling Nigerians that they're corrupt didn't solve the problem. What will solve the problem is when we actually start fixing our systems. That is what will solve the problem. Just saying we are corrupt, then you're going to miss all the people that are doing very good work.
So you know,
I think this point is very, very important. There are a lot of people doing a lot of good work on the continent there.
Well, this is not about Nigeria.
Doesn't do them any good.
This is not about Nigeria. And you come in here talking about, you have no problem talking bad about white people.
I am very passionate about the people that are on the continent there doing very good work.
Oh, they are?
Keeping it. If the continent, if people are not doing good work in that continent would have been gone a long time ago.
Oh, where would it go? Where would it go?
See, let me tell you.
Where would it go?
They will be handed out. They will be handed over to foreigners to take over.
Oh, the Chinese. It's been taken. The Chinese are over there taking over.
Wow.
What are you talking about?
You really don't. If you go on the ground, there will be anarchy. If you go to Nigeria, Ghana, and all those countries, some people are upholding the law. That's why you don't see drugs running all over the place. That's why you don't see.
That's because you haven't heard of Guinea Bissau, did you?
See, it's not the one you see in Mexico or the one you see in
Ecuador
and all.
Have you been really? Do you know that now the Colombian, their hub, is in Guinea Bissau? Where have you been?
But they came from Colombia, not from Guinea Bissau. You see, you're missing the point. Those areas are worse.
Well, it's a safe haven for the drugs to come in. So, anyways, to Niger, like I said, I need to go. I need to go.
Acknowledge them. Do you acknowledge that there is a lot of good people? Majority of Africans are doing good work on that continent.
Oh yeah, well, of course, there is good people.
You see, that title doesn't do them any justice, does it?
Well, okay, well, you know, when you guys decide to go on your Pan-Africanist channel, you know, me, just one individual,
Maybe you have been
it's not going
hiding
to,
from the continent for too long.
it's not,
Sorry.
look, me being one single individual, one channel is not going to change everyone's mind. Like, since you guys are more prideful about, you know, oh, since we are over there stealing and doing all, oh, people, we just want to pretend. Call us, we are not thieves, when the whole world knows different. The Afridamus report is here to report what is happening, and I continue to do that. But thank you for coming again, you know, and I appreciate you coming. Enjoy your day. I'm about to go enjoy my American food.
Thank you.
Okay? Thank
Thank you.
you. Bye bye. That was Two Niger, ladies and gentlemen. I've been here for quite some time, and you guys know you're watching the Afridamus report. If you're new here, make sure you like and subscribe to the channel and share the videos as well. As you know, I'm all about being fair and balanced. That's why I am your most trusted news source out here. I'm not here to tell you things just to make you feel good. Yes, sometimes you might not like what I'm saying, but it's not about your feelings, it's about facts. As you can see right here, there's people come in. Sometimes they want me to change the words or what I'm going to say about things, but it's not about being malicious. I'm just one individual. You know, imagine if I'm doing the news source like everyone else, just telling, you know, oh, the Africans built the pyramids. Oh, the Africans built Timbuktu. Oh, the Africans did this and that. Oh, talking about, you know, 1865. I want to talk about today. Today, 2021. Okay? I don't want to talk about things that's not real. We don't know if that's true or not. And that's what most of these people want to do. If you look at what is going on in Africa, it's really crazy. That doesn't mean I'm picking on the people. I'm African myself. You guys know this. So please make sure you like and subscribe to the channel. This is your most trusted news analysis source on this side of YouTube. It's not like the rest of these other YouTubers who just want to tell you what makes you feel good or whatever put you to sleep at night. It's not like that. I'll see you guys here tomorrow. Who knows what the topic is going to be? Because you know, over here, I hit wide range of topics, and I'll be back. And you know, I'm sure Two Niger is going to see the title again, and he's going to show up as usual, you know, and yeah. Thank you. Have a wonderful Saturday, because I know I will. Have a good one.